other things. And if you're joining me live, just to pop in the chat box, let me know if you can hear my audio. I have no idea which microphone is working. And what was I going to do next? I was going to go here and say go live. Perfect. And I think we should be live on Facebook too. So yeah, hello and welcome everybody. Yeah, I'm going to check in on the audio, but assuming all of that was working, hold on, let me make myself a little bit small. 320. Oops. Okay, that's much better. Alberto is here. So is Alex. Hello, everybody. Let me bring that up and let's start the timer so that I know I love talking about Power BI, but I don't want to go overboard. And I wanted to open one other thing, which is oh, actually I forgot. Where do I? All right, sorry. There's something where I keep notes. Uh, all right, perfect. You know what? Let's get started. So let me just see a quick audio check. See if that's working, if I can hear myself. Sounds good. Awesome. So sorry guys. At the beginning of these calls, I always seem a little flustered. Tech. No, what do you say? Frankly, if it all works, then I'm thankful at the end of the day. Uh, so yeah, if you're watching this on a replay, if you haven't signed up for the challenge, you can go to learnpowerbi.com/challenge and step up to the plate, my friend. Accept the challenge. What I wanted to start with saying is that this is not a beauty contest. All right, so some of you may be asking, what is this about? So it's not a beauty contest, and what I'm talking about that is, uh, so tell me this: have you kind of seen the parade of pretty glossy dashboards? We've all seen that, and I'm never impressed by that. Frankly, that's not new. So I'm not dismissing dashboards. Dashboards are certainly important, but I think they're overdone, and I'm kind of sick and tired of that. Because the more I've worked with Power BI, the more I've realized that it's about what's under the hood, what's under the covers. And really, anybody who's worked with data, tell me this. I mean, it's usually not glorious working with data. It's usually not the fancy dashboard that you see. It's usually kind of a little uglier than that. And that's the reality that I lived in. If you guys have kind of lived the same reality, let me know, or let me know that I'm off. No, Avi, I mean, I would love to hear from you on that. So yeah, not a beauty contest, not about building pretty dashboards, and sorry to say, but we're not here to save dolphins either. What I mean by that is I've seen other things that are run like this where everybody's using like a public data set, and I hate those. All right, I'm not gonna mince my words. I hate those. I think they're effing BS. I mean, sorry. You can see I have strong opinions about that, but what I really get a kick out of is working with real data and work solving real business problems. That's what I think is real Power BI. So here's the thing, my friend. Let's say you want to play tennis, right? You can go out there, find a nice brick wall, and all day you can hit the ball against that, you know? But that wouldn't really be tennis. So that's what I feel when I work with kind of real data. It's a different exercise. It's not something that I've ever done in my business career. I don't know, maybe for journalists or somebody like that, it makes perfect sense. For a business user, all right, so hey, a lot of you are pouring in. That's great. Mario Diaz says hello from Brazil. Alex Walton is here. Something I said resonated with Alex. He's laughing about that. Kamal is here. So is William Carvajo. Sorry, I probably messed up your name. So yeah, hello everyone. Uh, good. So Kamal Khan says from India. So what I was talking about. So yeah, you could be playing tennis and hitting it against the wall, but that wouldn't be real tennis. You need a partner. You need to play with somebody. So when you're solving real business problems, there's this back and forth. There's this peeling the onion, which I love doing. I love that process. And guys, there's no finish line. There's no model you're ever going to build that will be done. All right. So might as well enjoy the journey. And guess what? I'm talking about life as well. Okay. So back to Power BI. So yeah, I love. So I say Power BI is Agile BI. None of that BS 6 month, year long projects. Just stop doing that, please. That's so old school. Forget that. Move in short sprints, 5 day sprints. Heck, 2 day sprints. Now I know it sounds crazy, but believe me, I've done that. I've seen my students and other colleagues do it. You can get down and do 2 days, build something really epic, which stands. It's not a prototype. It's a working model. Probably something better than they could have built in a long time. So it's possible. So this is about using your real data. Go solve something in your business. And if you don't have that opportunity, I don't know. I know that part is hard. It's easy for me to say, but yeah, see if you can help a local business. Get a friend who is a small business owner. Ask them for their QuickBooks data or something, right? So that's what I'm talking about. For example, this was Dursu in the last challenge, matching blood types. So being able to select, so I don't really know what the scenario was. I didn't dig too deep, but imagine if Claudia is hurt and you can click on Claudia's name and say exactly who can donate blood to Claudia, and well, you can also see who Claudia can donate to. I don't know. Maybe this can also be used as a team building effort. Maybe you can make drinking games out of it at the next office party. I don't know. Lots of applications, but hey, sorry, I got carried away. But real business problem. This was by one of my students. We were just talking about this yesterday. So Della was talking about this, about understanding the usage pattern of mobile apps that they're deploying on various platforms. How can we understand how a user is using it? What's the frequency? Are they coming back? What about errors? Can we detect errors? Can we detect slowness or something like that? So we talked about a lot of scenarios here. That's the good stuff. You can't even come close to this with public data sets. Again, you would be hitting that ball against the wall. That's not the idea. Uh, Last one, cost allocation by Oscar. Okay, I don't have my screenshot. Okay, so give you some context. This is the third time I'm running this challenge. Hopefully this goes smoother. I don't know, but man, fingers crossed. You never know how these things go. But this was inspired by Marco Polo. If you haven't caught that on Netflix, I would highly recommend it. Uh, and this was the code, apparently an ancient Chinese wisdom. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand, and I couldn't agree more. Learning comes from doing. So enough of that, guys. Let's get into action. So if you did sign up for the challenge, and the link I think is scrolling by on your screen, I don't see it, but learnpowerbi.com/challenge, sign that up. It'll hook you up with some resources, and here is the general idea. The general idea is, doesn't matter what you're doing. I still do this when I work with my clients. I go through the same three phases. I connect to the data and bring it in using the query editor. Then I focus on the model where I define the relationships and define measures. And then I do visuals. And again, this is not, you don't think of it as like a big project. You do quick cycles, peeling the onion, pick your favorite analogy, right? So yeah, I would do this in a week, typically in a week, or 2 days again sometimes. And let's just go end to end, build something and iterate, iterate, iterate. Okay, you get the idea. So it doesn't matter if you're building your first dashboard or your next dashboard. Now, for the folks who are building your first dashboard, hey, I also want to say hi to Amy and Michael. Thank you for joining on the phone call. So, folks who are in the class, I should have sent out a link where you can join using a conference call. That way, it'll be easier later for you to ask questions and such. So, if you're really at the point of building your first dashboard, follow the Zero to Dashboard tutorial. But otherwise, I definitely encourage you to use your own data set. So this is the rough plan. Day one, query editor. Day two, query editor. Day three, four. I don't know. We'll make it up as we go. All right. I'll listen to you too. Thursday, we actually have a special event. I'm going to talk about that. Friday, next week. Oh yeah, it's back, my friends. So we did an all-day YouTube live marathon. It was kind of epic. I loved it. So we'll do it again, and that will be your chance to, for any one of you on my channel listening right now, to be able to call in and just talk to me one-on-one. And yeah, we had some fun. And yeah, hit that Facebook group. So sorry, I was too busy kind of prepping for this day, so I wasn't that active in the Talk Power BI. But that will be our hangout when I'm not live. When I'm live, then hey, just come here and hang out with me. A shout out to Haridas, who already has a question. SSRS versus Power BI. Gosh, you guys, stop it, guys, stop saying the versus thing. What is this? Epic Day 5, already talked about that. Oh yeah, uh, well, I'll talk more about this. You can have a chance to win a seat to my Learn Power BI program. We did that last time. That was really cool. Um, Sample data sets. Well, again, the best is if you can if you have a real world business problem that you're working on. So that's the best part. Okay, I'm gonna pause. And again, the idea behind this, my goal is to keep the teaching to the minimum because a lot of that is already on my YouTube channel and inside my course for those who are in my course already. So I don't want to kind of repeat that, and I want to get to doing. I want to get to answering your questions and helping you over roadblocks. Uh, let's see if I missed a shout out. Maria, Alex, Alberto, Alex, awesome, great. So let me quickly address Haridas's question. He's asking SSRS versus Power BI. I really think I've stopped thinking of really anything versus anything, even like Tableau versus Power BI. It's the way I think about it is you author your model, you publish your model somewhere, and then you can connect any reporting tool to it. I don't care what you connect. Excel, Power BI reports or dashboards, SSRS, Tableau, I don't really care. So the real question is, what do you use to author your model and where do you publish it? Now for authoring your model, guys, I mean, I don't know. I think it's an easy choice. Power BI Desktop is the place to go. There are a few other choices, including in Microsoft Word, but that's about it. Yeah, we can dive deeper into that, but really doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if you use Excel Power Pivot. Once you publish it, you can still connect it to any reporting tool. Okay, cool. Trond, I hope I'm not messing your name. Eric, let me call you Eric. I know how to say Eric. Eric says hi from Norway. Hello, Eric. Awesome. Great to have you guys. You know what? Guys, come on. Just type in a hi. I know a lot of you are on. I can see you, but I don't know who you are. Just say hello to me. Amy, Michael on the phone. Thank you, my friends. Do you have any questions before I kind of dive in and talk about Query Editor a little bit? So it joins you in mute. So if you want to talk, you would have to hit the microphone button. Okay. So Amy and Michael, you can bug me anytime you want. Oh wait, Amy had a question. So I have like three different chat windows open. No, Amy, you don't have to join through that. Oh gosh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot that. So I'm not sharing my screen with you guys. I apologize for that. Let's go. Perfect. Okay. Man, from all over. Casey says hello. Carl is here. Good to see you, Carl. Wait, you signed up for my course, right? So if you sign up for my course, you can also join in the conference line. You don't have to. You don't have to, but that way we can talk if you like. So Got says hi from Athens, Greece. Eduardo Henrique is here from Portugal. Uh, Chandrasekhar says hi. Woohoo! All right, awesome, my friends. So I'm going to share with you something which I feel passionately about. Pretty much anything about Power BI, I am passionate about it. Um, so I talk about this thing, and my students are kind of tired of me talking about this, hearing this from me. Is that do your cooking in the kitchen? And what do I mean by cooking? By cooking, I mean cleaning, shaping, transforming your data. Um, and all of that needs to happen in the query editor. That's a kitchen, right? So cooking, clean, shape, transform data happens in the kitchen, which is a query editor. Now, that is a general rule. Doesn't mean that you never break it, right? It's possible that hey Carl, that okay, I prepare a salad, right? But then I don't know, I toss it on when I serve it. So yeah, it's possible to break those rules. And sometimes I eat my food in the kitchen too, right? So what's the analogy here? So query editor is your kitchen. That's where you do your cooking, not in your model. So a lot of times I see people doing, clean shape transform in DAX. Like I don't remember the last time I did a calculated column in DAX. Why would you do that when you can do that in your kitchen, in your query editor? It's good to keep things in one place. Again, there will be exceptions, but let those be exceptions. The default should be this. And I'll say for the most part, a lot of SQL users are guilty of that. All right. Now Excel users have their own flaws. They love flattening the tables, right? They figure out, oh, Power BI doesn't have VLOOKUP, but it has related. It's the same as VLOOKUP. And I'm like, please stop using that. So that's their problem. But a lot of SQL users use DAX as a query language, which I've always found hard because I come from an Excel background to grasp DAX as a query language. It's a little bit hard for me, but they're using summarize, but they're using it to the wrong effect. You shouldn't be. Do your cooking in the kitchen. Stop doing your clean shift transform in DAX or anywhere else. Whew. Okay, let's see an example, right? Let's see what I'm talking about. So the scenario here is, oops, this was not supposed to show. Can I delete it? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. Query editor. So the scenario is that we have service ticket data, and I'm going to show you the data. I'm going to walk you through the example. And we just want to mark the tickets as which ones came outside of business hours. Oliver says hello in, I think, some other language. Hey, Rob Nicole is there as well. Awesome. All right, guys. And Cheryl, I see your question. I'm going to get to it right after this. So again, I want to keep this as short as possible. Cooking in your kitchen. So our scenario is service tickets, and you want to flag them as outside business hours. And the two rules are, hey, Sachin, I think, on the call. So yeah, folks who are on the call, know that you can unmute yourself anytime you want. It does join you as mute by default. Okay, sorry, I'm back on. Outside business hours, there are two rules. One is if they're received on the weekend. Makes sense, right? Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, it's outside business hours. But on a weekday, if it's received outside of, let's say, 9 to 5. Let's do it in the query editor, and then I'm going to talk about doing it in DAX. So let's go here.
This is Amy. I just unmuted myself. This was my example.
Yeah, can I steal it?
Yes, you can.
Okay, great.
And you scolded me because I did it the wrong way.
Yeah, but yeah, you're not the only one. See, so have you seen those like funny inspiration posters where there's a photo of a ship sinking, and they say the goal of
Am I on it?
some people the caption reads for some people the goal in their life is to set an example for others. So no, I'm just messing with you. Yeah, so
Well, it's funny because
yeah.
you said that SQL people write in DAX, and I'm a SQL person, so I guess you have me pegged.
Whoa, I haven't seen you do that. So I wouldn't say any names, but if you go in our class Facebook group, I see that. And you know what? I think I need to step up a little bit and just say it that guys don't do this. Sometimes I'm kind of hesitant to, point a finger at somebody. But yeah, you would see other examples where I look at what they're doing and I'm like, oh my God, why would you even attempt this? So they're much more egregious examples. But I think we caught you early. What do you think, Amy?
I know. I kind of want to. It's funny because you showed me, and then you talked about putting it in the calendar table, and that I actually ended up using it
Oh,
again
oh
for
yeah,
another
yeah.
kind of measure, and it would have been handy to have in the calendar table. But anyways, go
Oh,
ahead.
good. Yeah, yeah, awesome. No, no, no. Hey, so all of you guys on the phone, yeah, feel free to chat. Frankly, it goes better when we chat. I'm more used to that with our weekly Q&A calls. Okay. James says hello from Atlanta. Woohoo, my brother lives there. Okay, cool. So here's our data. And of course, this is a dummy data set. So just, yeah, just dates and times. And we want to be able to flag. And let's say if I can tell right away. So obviously, is this midnight? Oh, I always get confused with AM PM. I think that's midnight. So that one is after hours. And then let's say if this was weekend, or let's say if this guy was weekend, then this would be after hours too. I don't know. So we're gonna figure that out, and I'm gonna show you in the query editor. But guys, that is not the message. I'm not really showing you the query editor. If you know this already, then if you know how to do it in query editor, that's not the point. The point is again, do your cooking in the kitchen, and I'm gonna save that point. Like, why is that important? Why is it important to do it? So actually, the first point is easy because the kitchen has all the I was gonna say utensils, whatever, whatever you call the thing to help you cooking, utensils, appliances. Yeah, so it has all of that, and that's right here in the query editor, right here, guys. There's so much help here. Why would you, do your cooking elsewhere? Why would you try to struggle in DAX and or somewhere else? It's all right here. 99% of the stuff that I do is right here. So that's one thing. The second thing I'm going to save for later. Okay, I'm going to cheat a bit. So I'm just going to see the general outline of what I did. Day of week, time, day start, time, day end, weekday, weekend, check after hours. Okay, cool. So let's go here. And first of all, I'm going to try to figure out whether it's a weekend or weekday. So I'm going to go to add columns. Edita says hello from Czech Republic. And I'm gonna get the weekday, day of week, right? So You guys can see it, day of week, and I said add column. So now I got, so 0, I think is Sunday, January 7th, if I can quickly check. January 7th is a Sunday. Cool. So that's 0. Perfect. So I have that. And now I want to do some another check. So this is going to let me do a weekday weekend check. Actually, let's add that first of all. So I'm going to say custom column, and I'm going to say weekday weekend, and I'll say day of week if day of week is 0 or day of week equals 6. So that's Saturday or Sunday, or Sunday or Saturday. Then this is a weekend, else this is a weekday. Okay, got it. Weekday, weekday, weekend. Yeah, so they're not contiguous dates. This is just as the data was coming in. So whatever, however it was coming in. Should I sort it? I could, I guess. Let's try that. So weekday, weekday, weekend, and again we have weekend. January 7th was a Sunday. Got it. Okay, so we have that working, but now let's do a comparison on ours. Okay, cool. And then let's go. So James, I see your question. I'm gonna get to that. Zoom in a little bit. Yep, come on, I'll do that. Uh, so far we have weekday, weekend. Let's do the time of the day. So now I want to detect between 9 to 5. So I'm gonna, and again, guys, one of my qualities is that I'm not that smart. So that means any problem I have to go like really step by step. And you would see this even when I'm writing DAX measures. Nothing comes to me like a flash of brilliance. Okay, so I got that. I realized I should have done a reference here. Let me just do a reference source, and I'm gonna. Oh, sorry, I messed it up already. So ignore that. Good interview question. What's the difference between duplicate and reference? Okay. So now I want to detect that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go real easy. So I'm going to add a custom column, and let's see if the zoom works. Did it work? And I'm going to say time start. I'm watching on the other screen. Oh, it did work. Awesome. And we'll go time and hours, minutes, seconds. So hours, 9 o'clock is 9 hours, 0, 0. Okay, and hey, you might have to Google this stuff, but no big deal. 9 a.m. Woo! I got it right on the first try. Great. Let's do one more. Priya is right here from Seattle. Woohoo! Let's do one more. And guys, I like to document it as I go. So instead of the name, I'm going to change the name to what I said. So it had time. It had added custom one, and that's kind of hard to look at. So I change it as I go. Time start, and I'm going to do another one, which is going to time end. End. And of course, you can call it whatever you want. And so when do my business hours end? They end. So hash is a way to define a constant. So hash time, I'm saying, give me a time. So it ends at 5 p.m., which is 12 plus 5, 17 hours in military time. And let's see how this looks. 5 p.m. Perfect, right? So I got these two. And now you can see that all I need to do is compare this time and see if it falls between this or not, right? So let's do that. And I'm going to go kind of custom column. Let's put it right here. Time after hours, something like that. If the time is greater than start and right. I mean, really simple, really simple. Time is less than time end, then business hours, else after hours. Got that? Let's do a quick check. So I'm looking at 2 p.m. business hours, 8 a.m. after hours, 2 a.m. after hours. It looks good, right? Just do a spot check. And now I'm ready for my final comparison, which is I'm gonna say custom column, and I'll do my final one outside business hours, and I can just check, is it a weekend or is it after hours? So if weekday weekend equals weekend, and I usually like text, not codes. I mean, of course, day of the week I started with 0. That was okay. So weekday weekend. Actually, I should say or, right? Or time after hours. Then we'll say outside business hours. Else, I'm going to leave it blank so that way it's easier to see, I think. Cool. So this one is after hours, but this one, notice that the hours are in business hours because it was 11 a.m., but this was a weekend, so that turned it on, right? So, and again, there's nothing magical, but again, emphasizes how many tools are available in your kitchen to do your cooking, right? You with me? But this is the best part. This is the best part. You're going to love it. The kitchen also has a trash can, which you don't have a trash can in your dining room, do you? I know I don't. I hope you don't. Right? It just look nasty. So here's a trash can, my friend. Right now, I started off with this, my dates and my times, and all I wanted to do was just flag them which ones are after business hours. I've already done them, and I can throw everything in the trash can, the peels that I cut off, right? Here it goes. Remove columns. Done and gone. I don't need them. I don't need them, and I don't need to load them back into my model. So I'll show you kind of a more polished example. So notice I had done what I talked about. I renamed typically all the fields, sorry, the steps, just to make sure that I can easily read them. Sometimes if I'm extra good that day, then I also, for a complex step, I add a description. So of course, this one is the world's best cooking step, which is the remove columns. So you can remove that, and yeah, sorry, I broke it a little bit. So that's the reason, my friends, why I think you should do your cooking in the kitchen. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for today. And let's go in for your questions. And I don't know why. Why am I having trouble finding the Talk Power BI notes? Chat log with, I don't know where. There's some place I was keeping notes and I can't find it. Anyway, we'll do a new one. So again, guys, this is my time to hang out with you and help you over any roadblocks. I can't do the work for you. I'm trying to find Word in my machine. All right, let's say James had a question. Speaking of you, what's the deal? Transform sample queries. Why can't I delete? Yeah, so that one is kind of good and bad. So let's go talk Power BI. Well, it's kind of talk Power BI. Sorry, I'm just so used to that. Day one, Power BI challenge. And remember the big lesson, cooking in the kitchen, my friends. Okay. So, hey, for my friends joining on the phone, Amy, Carmichael, Munir, and Sachin, sorry, I don't know why I stumbled on your name. If you have any questions, just unmute yourself and talk. I'm not very good at monitoring the GoToMeeting chat window, so you can ask on the phone. Otherwise, let's go. Where's my timer? Actually, where am I? That's me. Uh, and 2030. Okay, cool. So who was asking that? Was James Ellis. James Ellis. So James, thank you for your question. I wonder if I can show that really quick. Uh, in fact, we were working on this yesterday. Okay, it's an Excel example, but it's the same thing. The Excel query editor is not really different than the Power BI query editor. So what James is asking about is that often when you connect to a file or a folder, you get something like this. Data, get data, query editor. Mm. Oh shoot, this doesn't have that. Okay. Um, well, you know what? Just give me 1 second. Let me pull that up. Where is that? Is that here? Nope. Sorry, I'm a bit of a back rat when it comes to folders. I swear I had it yesterday. Okay, let's see if I can open it from here. Oops. Mm, well, let's just, where was that file? Oh, I know. Talk Power BI. No, no, no. Sorry. There we go. Mm, 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 mm. Hey, if you have any questions, if you have any other questions, gosh, do type in. Alex, that's funny. Ramon says hello from Venezuela. Alex is saying I need a model to organize my my files. I might. Okay, let's see how this one looks like. Okay, so this is what James is asking about, that sometimes you connect to something and it does a sample query, and then you have these steps, and it warns you if you try to delete any of that. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of this. Certainly when it first popped up, then it was a little weird, but I understand it. I mean, I understand the intent. So usually when you connect to file or multiple files or a folder, I think that's the scenario here. So I'm connecting to a folder. So sorry, the steps are broken because I'm pointing to a wrong file. But and notice here in my step that I'm connecting to a folder. So when I'm connecting to a folder, usually I want to execute a set of operations on those files. Now, we have talked about this at length inside our class. So imagine you have a set of files and they all kind of look alike. They all kind of look alike, right? Then you can just go to them and just combine them. Just combine them, and then in the next step, you can do any cleanup you need to do. But sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes what you need to do is you need to go to each file and kind of run it on that file, run whatever cleanup steps. So this is what it lets you do, and it's kind of really fancy. So essentially, it's calling a function in each of those files. If it finds 5 files in there, let's go in my folder. So in this case, we had just had two of these text files that we're connecting to. Imagine there were 20. So if it finds 20 files in there, it's going to call this function on each of those files. But if you go edit this function, it's not going to let you edit it. If you click advanced editor, it's going to give you a warning, because the way to edit this function is to actually edit this sample query. Now, how they hooked it up, I don't know. And let me see if I can kind of fix. Oh, how do I? Let me see if I can try to fix it, just so we can see a little bit. Folder path, and I'm going to get the file name. By the way, if you're starting out in Query Editor, my first tip would be to turn on the formula bar. Obviously, it didn't help me in this case. Why? Oh, okay, got it. Because okay, so now it's working. Oh shoot, why is this not working? Anyway, so the idea is that you edit this function by editing this file, and it's easier to do that because you can use any of the buttons over here, and that way, whatever operations you perform on this file. So notice what we're doing over here. We have a whole bunch of steps for this sample file, split column, and this was a really complicated example. Maybe I'll share the actual example with you guys in a little bit. So we had to do all of this operation, but then I define these operations on one file, and then it runs it. It calls that function on those 20 files. So that's how the intent. So actually, let me show you the uh, what is the scenario here. I think you guys are gonna love it. Oh, oops! If I can fix this thing. Okay, forget it. Yeah, I don't have the data files correctly hooked up. Okay. All right. Anything else on the phone or on? I'm gonna scroll back, see if I missed a question from you guys. Ah, so Cheryl has a good one. So here is where you guys can help me out. Help me out, my friends. Where did that go? Actually, let me put it here. So we are at 35, 36, and Cheryl has a good question, which I didn't copyright. So I talked about query editor and DAX and stuff is day three, but here's the thing. So I talked about query editor, and you do your clean shape transform over there. Fair enough, right? But and I don't. That's where the cooking analogy breaks down, and maybe you can help me think how to process it. So I don't know. Maybe it's eating a meal. So you should not eat your meal in the kitchen. I know. I'm on thin ice now, but thou shall not eat your meal in the kitchen. And here, what is the kitchen? Kitchen is the query editor still, but eating the meal is first of all any calculation. So yeah, kitchen, right? So you're not going to do that, or as a rule, you shouldn't do that. Exceptions are okay, but you need to understand why are you following that exception. As long as you have some justification. If I pull you up and say, "Hey, why did you do that?" You would have to say, "Oh yeah, Avi, I get it. I know this is the reason," and you can tell me something. So absolutely no calculations in the query editor. That's the general rule. Never say never, right? But no calculation. If you're doing any math, so I've seen such egregious examples in the query editor of people doing calculations. The worst that I saw, I hope those guys are not listening because, well, yeah. Anyway, even if they're listening, so they were doing time intelligence in the query editor, and I felt like stabbing myself. Like, why would you do that? First of all, it's kind of so hard to do in query editor. It's kind of a calculation, and time intelligence is one of those things which is super easy in DAX, super easy to do. So all of your math should be on DAX. Uh, and this is debatable. I don't think the answer is for speed because technically, if you can calculate it in the query editor, it might be faster because that will be cached. So I don't think that's the precise answer. The precise answer, I think, is for agility because DAX measures have this magical feature, which frankly, when I was in Excel world, if somebody would have said those words, that is, you define a measure or a formula just once and you use it everywhere. You never have to redefine it. I wouldn't have been able to comprehend it because I was so used to filling my cells and endless cells with formulas and endless formulas, right? I mean, I would create a formula and then drag it down. And guess what? When I dragged it down, every single cell was technically a different formula, right? I mean, sure, you could use tables and stuff, but still, I mean, it was really hard. So in DAX, you want to have that. You want to have that magic of define once and use everywhere, and that comes I can't spell today. That comes from the dynamic nature of DAX measures, which is they're not stored. They're always calculated on the fly. Sure, there might be some caching and stuff, but ignore that. But yeah, they're not stored with the model. They're always calculated on the fly. That means they can kind of respond to whatever's going on. However you change your model. Let me open something which would make some sense at least. So that's the reason DAX measures should be your mainstay for formula. And you're probably gonna have me harp about this again on day 3. Okay, so Robert has a question. So maybe it was Cheryl. Sorry, I think it was Cheryl. Okay, got it. So if you have more on that, let me know. 30, and this is Robert. I have no database experience, and I'm fairly adept at Excel. Come on, buddy, bring it in. Let me give you a hug. Shit, it's a pity that thing doesn't work because, well, actually, I did have some SQL experience. Excel, by far, I lived and breathed Excel. I've been struggling to translate my real data. Where should I start my journey? Power Query or Power Pivot? Mm, okay, good point. I don't think it's okay. So first of all, uh, I'm not a. I wish it was simpler, but let me just dive in anyway. So Excel, there's Power BI inside Excel, and guys, I just use Power BI for everything whenever I'm talking about the technology. But the technology lives inside Excel as well, in the form of add-ins called actually technically formerly called Power Pivot. Now you can find that name in there. It's called Data Model, and formerly called Power Query. You remember I think it was the Prince, the artist who dropped his name, and then MTV would show him as the artist formerly known as Prince. So yeah, so this tool is the technical name is formerly known as Power Query and formerly known as Power Pivot. You see why I call this Power BI, right? So I just call it Power BI inside Excel. That's it. So Power BI technology is there. You can use it inside Excel. You can also use Power BI desktop. That's up to you. I will say that I come from an Excel background, so I dragged my heels. Is that the phrase? Sorry, immigrant here. I dragged my feet. I think dragged my feet for a long time and didn't switch over to Power BI desktop because I had been using Excel and Power BI inside Excel using Power Pivot and Power Query for so long. I just felt totally comfortable. And Power BI desktop, I felt kind of out of sorts. But once I made the transition, I never looked back. So I really don't remember. I mean, last time when I built a Power BI model inside Excel, using Power Pivot and Power Query. So I just use Power BI Desktop. I like it, and I'll be candid, my friends. The first reason why I switched over was it's so much more stable, or at least was when I made the switch. I don't know, maybe about a year ago, for good, 2 years ago, something like that. Excel just kind of kept crashing, and it's not the team's fault. I think it's the fundamental technology. It uses an add-in technology, add an interface, and that's written for third party tools, not for a beast like Power Pivot. That needs to be meshed into the tool. That's my theory anyway. So that's why I love Power BI Desktop, and now pretty much I use that here. But you know what? That doesn't matter. That's not your answer. So certainly, so it depends on what you mean by translate real data. Because again, in any process, there's going to be those 3 steps. You're going to have to clean shape transform. You're going to have to define your relationships and measures, and then you can do visuals. And guys, again, this cycle can be really short. Usually, what I love doing is I pick like a small corner. Uh, uh, Gosh, I'm blanking. Not having a good day today. Who wrote the seven habits of successful people? Whoever wrote that, the famous guy, one of the chapters is Circle of Zara. So I believe in the Circle of Zara, where you define a small circle and you say, you know what, I'm just going to do this, and that's it. So you don't try to boil the ocean or solve the big problem. You say, I'm just going to do this one file or this one aspect of it, and take it from the query editor to model to visualization. Uh, yeah, so I'll share with you. Sorry, going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think that's important. Yeah, that's important because people. So yesterday I was talking to one of my students, Della, and that's an example that I pasted here, which was the mobile app usage, and she had a lot of questions, which are great. Are great to kind of document them all, but you know, uh, you don't want to just try to solve all of that. So we marked our own circle of Zorro and we said, you know what? Let's just do these things first. Just count the usage, count the number of distinct people using it. And those are such simple formulas. That's count rows and distinct count. And then you do frequency, which is divide the count rows by the number of people, distinct count, and that's it. and then stick the calendar and timetable in there and just slice and dice the heck out of it. And that simple step itself is so amazingly powerful. It's going to give you so much more insights. But again, right? Baby steps, baby steps. So come back to your question here. So I think that part is important. So uh, yeah, I wouldn't know. So if you're talking about Power Query, that's really the query editor in that, and that one is the kitchen. That's where you clean shape transform. So if you have messy data, if you have to combine data from multiple sources, then that's your tool. That's your tool, right? But once you have done that, and then you're looking for calculations, which is I don't know, DAX, right? If you're looking for calculations, then DAX is your friend. And I hear this all the time. DAX is hard. So first of all, my friends, I want you to stop saying that, because this might sound like loony, but I'm a little loony right now since I started my own business. It's I believe that words have power. Yeah, there you go. Now, yeah, words have power. They do have power. Okay, I'm convinced, and our language has a lot of impact on we shape our reality using our words and our thoughts. So as long as you keep thinking DAX is hard, it's gonna be freaking hard for you. And I know, it's like how can I say this? No, I don't know. I mean, kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing. But if you switch that mindset, DAX is easy. It is easy because it's like learning to cycle. If you don't know how to cycle, it is hard, right? But when you do, it's easy. There's nothing to it. So DAX is kind of like that. It's not a hard concept. You just have to break it down step by step. And yeah, so if you're struggling with the calculation, then DAX is what you want to focus on. If you want to post specific examples in our Facebook group, is that flashing by? Where is that? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Facebook Talk Power BI. Just look for that, and I'll jump in there. I wasn't active in the past few days. I was trying to prep for this meeting, but I'll be in there. So yeah, put your file there. Of course, remove sensitive data or create a dummy file with your example. And I've seen a lot of good Power BI folks. We all have one common trait. You give me a Power BI challenge, and until I've solved that, we don't rest. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of help there. Stephen Covey, okay, good friend. Stephen Covey, of course, yeah. Okay, Dick Moffat. I don't know how to say it last name. Sorry. I think we've traded messages back and forth. Doesn't I totally disagree. Love it. I love it when somebody disagrees. You know what? That deserves a screenshot. That is awesome. So love that, my friends. I have done my job here today. So this is my coach James Whitaker. Yes, James Whitaker, and he said if you don't piss off one person in the crowd, then you haven't done your job. Actually, maybe I haven't done my job because he also put a smiley in there. So come on, Dick, put an angry face there. Then I'll be like, okay, my job done. So sorry, I lost the context of what Dick was talking about. Maybe the cooking in the kitchen. So Robert was asking that. Don't cook in the dining room. The tools in the kitchen. Okay, I'm gonna copy that too. That's a keeper. Don't cook in the dining room. Yeah, that's true. But you shouldn't do some things in the kitchen either. You shouldn't eat your food. Anyway, uh, so Dick doesn't agree with something that I said, which I like. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. And we got the author's name, Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Successful People. Habit number, I don't know which one, the Circle of Zorro. Trond has a question. Let me stick that in there. And and let's go 48. We're creeping up on the R. Nice going, my friends. Frankly, anything shorter than an hour feels so short for me because our weekly calls with the class often go for 2 to 3 hours. At least I wish they did. Sometimes they end a little short, but that's okay. All right, so this was Trond. I'm curious. Trond did say where he's from, which I lost. Roberto is here from Germany. Sorry if I missed some shout outs. Good to have all of you guys here. Coming from QlikView. All right, my friends. Well, you're here. What's the opposite of dark side? Gosh, I'm really off today. I would call myself a Star Wars fan, but um, yeah, welcome from the dark side. Coming from QlikView. No, just kidding. All tools are good. I'm used to be able to store away some key values when the model updates to leave behind snapshots of data and time. Can I do this in Power Query? That's an excellent question. And again, guys, when you see Power Query, you can adapt that to Query Editor. It's the same thing. I just, yeah, so that's the same thing. So how do you do snapshots? Now, this is a challenge which I actually thought that cannot be solved in the inside of the Query Editor. But I was mistaken. So I'll come back to the solution. But so what I used to tell my students was solve it outside of Query Editor. So whatever your source data is, uh, yeah, you can take essentially snapshots of the model itself, and there are a few different ways to do it. So that was kind of my solution. And of course, maybe you don't want to take snapshot of the model, but just snapshot of data. So this is like inventory, let's say inventory, right? So you just want to take a snapshot every day. Then do this snapshot and save in a new file. That's a classic way to do it in a folder. So you're going to have files for January 1, January 2, January 3, and then you can say get data from folder and bring them all in. And now you have a running record for what was the inventory at January 1, 2, 3. That was my general suggestion. But one of my students, and sorry, there are 200 plus now, so well, I shouldn't use that as an excuse, but I don't remember the name. But they solved it inside the query editor and blew me away. But they used something which I know I'm not capable of. I'm not qualified to teach or even talk about R. But they used R inside the query editor. So and that is kind of cool. Kind of cool, I think. Where's R? So, my friends on the phone, you're awfully quiet. I just wanted to remind you, you can yeah, talk to me anytime you want. Mm, okay.
Oh,
Why?
this is Carl. I
Hey,
I
Carl.
sent some stuff in the chat. I guess I thought you were looking at that, so I
Oh,
didn't ask.
well,
So I'll
you
just shut
got
up now. But
yeah. No, you got the direct lane. Yeah, you got yeah. You literally in my ear. So you got my ear, right? That's the phrase. So yeah, you can pipe up anytime you want. Frankly, even if you have like thoughts and opinions about what we're discussing too.
yeah, no, I had
Definitely
two
pipe
things, but once you finish this thought, then I can come back.
Got it. So yeah, I was talking about R. So for one, R is there in this form in the visual. So R script visual, you guys can create that, but it's also in the query editor. And yeah, I mean, I'm not an R guy, but I hear good things about it. It's apparently the de facto language. So in here, there is this run R script thing here. So that learned Power BI member, who shall remain unnamed, use this to somehow do this inside the query editor, where you would refresh Power BI, you would hit refresh, and it'll save a snapshot of the file. And I'll have to go dig inside a group to do that, but I know that's how they solved it. But you don't have to go that route. You can solve it outside the model. See if that works. All right, Carl, did you have something for me? You had some thoughts, right?
Yeah, yeah. So first thought was about the don't do your cooking in the kitchen analogy. In my house, there's a pass through between the kitchen and the dining room,
Yeah,
right? And at the end of the pass through, the table, the counter extends out, and I have stools under there where people can sit and eat. And
yeah,
then there's the dining room proper. So
uh-huh.
if you're thinking of some way to meld a place where you cook, which also includes preparation,
Yeah,
pass through area is kind of that. And then you can also eat there if you have to or want to. And then there's the
yeah,
separate dining room. So your analogy doesn't break down if you throw in a pass through area.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah. So
there's
I
a
think query editor, and this one is I don't
that.
I call it I call it the model because the reality is this is relationships plus
Yeah.
stats. Those are the two powerful things there. I don't know, fork and knife. How about that? We'll come up
Right.
with stuff
But
on knife. Yeah. So
yeah.
this is the fork, and we have a knife here. So those are your two things, and yeah, they definitely belong in the dining room. And yeah, of course, the query editor usually
Yeah.
pumps
But
food in here. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. But
I like
you
that.
can eat kind of in the kitchen because the
That's
pass
true.
through is
That's true.
connected to both.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about the exceptions really quick. And we came across this on yesterday's Q&A call with my class, where we did some cooking in the dining area. We did it in the DAX side of things. And after a long time, I did a calculated column. And this we used for a hierarchy where we had employee ID and manager ID. So employee ID 99 reports into manager ID 51, 51 reports into 33. You get the idea, and it's kind of a nested hierarchy kind of thing, kind of a tree chart. And we used in DAX, we use path to solve it because it's just so damn easy. That's why I used it. So sure, maybe I was, but we were wondering at that point because it's so easy in here that I haven't even tried doing that in the query editor. Maybe that's easy enough. So that was one exception. And there are few like this. There are cases where you would do your calculation in the kitchen. So you kind of do your not here, and vice versa. You would do something here, some clean shape transform. But again, kind of exceptions. Okay, cool. Anything else on the phone?
So my question was, I've
Hmm.
got I've got more ham radio data, right? So I've been
All
tapping into
right.
this. I've been tapping into this server for like 2 weeks, and I've got, I don't know, 500,000 rows or something, and different. I don't know how many different files, but
Okay.
anyway, there's a date time field in there,
Okay.
and um, I can convert that just fine. But I need to know the hour, the minute, and the seconds.
Got it.
And when I duplicate the date time column,
Uh-huh.
and then I split it by the space delimiter between the date and the time, I get a date column and a time column, right? And
Okay.
that works fine. But then when I go and duplicate the time column and want to split it by the colon delimiter that's
Yeah.
between the hours and the minutes, the seconds disappear. So what I ended up doing was copying the time column 3 times and then going to the transform menu,
Yeah.
in each column under time, select hours, minutes, and seconds, and it works fine. I'm just kind of curious as to why the delimiter thing
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah. So my theory is that, and we can kind of test it, that when you split, when you went from like January 22nd, 2018, 3:15 p.m. When you split it into two,
Yeah, but it's 3:15 and 20 seconds.
yeah,
So
but
another colon and 20 seconds after
yeah,
yeah.
but
And then PM.
okay, yeah, fair enough. But when you split it, did it automatically change the type to a time field? If it
Um,
stayed as text, and I think you would
no,
want to keep it as text.
I'm not sure I tried that. Let
Yeah,
me
so
do that real
we
quick.
might be able
That's
to recreate that in Amy's famous
duplicate.
example that keeps on giving. She's still on?
Okay,
She's
so
still on. Okay, cool. So let's uh
okay, so
let's try it. Oh, can we try it over here? Oh, let's just do some dummy data.
all right, so split
So
delimiter
enter data, date
space.
time, and we have I don't know, 2018 01 01 or
Okay.
3:15 07, and then we're going to do 2018 02 02 15 34 29.
Ah, it worked. You're a genius.
Ah, I wouldn't go
I
that far, but
when, when I duplicated it and then split it, it took
yeah,
the time column and left
yeah,
it as a date time
yeah.
setting,
Uh-huh.
and then I went and changed it to text, and then did the colon split.
Perfect.
And but here's the thing: I have to strip out the AM PM stuff. So
Yeah,
actually, it's going to take me just as much effort to do it that way as it is the way I ended up doing it. But I was curious as to
yeah, yeah.
why the
I mean,
data
if you,
transformation was funky.
yeah, if you want to get, yeah, I mean, really fancy, you can probably get in there and just call those functions in a custom column. So
Okay, thanks.
sometimes you can combine. All right, cool. Um, okay, perfect. Let me maybe I'll show this as an example what Carl was talking about, but let me look at some of the chat stuff going on. And again, on the phones, my friend, just speak anytime. I it's better than me droning on endlessly. Problem when splitting time field. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for your comments. Okay, Dick says he loves me. But hey, I told you I'm on a mission to piss somebody off because that's what my coach told me. And I will say that I've been throughout my life. Man, it's so hard to say it, but yeah, I've been a little bit of the doormat. I've always been, kind of the pleaser. I wanted to keep everybody happy in school, at work. Mm, yeah, and and I just want to. I just I think I'm at a point where I want to be able to speak my mind, and it's odd. You realize, so guys, so it's somewhat personal, but I'll share it anyway. I guess yesterday I had this really distinct feeling that my time on this earth is limited. And of course, logically, we all know, yeah, we're all gonna die, blah blah blah. But it kind of really sunk in. I really kind of felt it in my bones that, man, my time here is limited, and not in a sad way, but in a very deep, kind of resonant way. And it happened when I was thinking about kind of my mission. So I think for me, those two things were connected. When I feel like I have a mission, I have a purpose in life. Yeah, it's bigger than a mission. I have a purpose in life, which is, I know it sounds corny, but yeah, it's help people with Power BI because it transformed my life. It went from night and day. Right? That's big how big the change was. And I know there are others out there. So in a way, I'm being very selfish. I'm helping myself, or at least the past Avi. I'm going out there and seeking that past Avi and seeing how I can help them because here was the worst thing that when I was in that life, when I was busy cranking that data wheel, I wasn't even aware. I thought things were great, right? And only now or after kind of Power BI, I could look back and see, man, that was kind of sucky. Was I really doing that for such a long time? So yeah, that kind of sunk in, and so my time here is limited. So I'm on a mission to piss people off because that would mean that I'm really taking a stand for something. Okay, John, thanks for your words. Tron likes something I said. Dick, absolutely. We will connect. So day five will be a chance. I'm excited about that. So day five on our thing will be the all day Talk Power BI marathon where you guys will be calling in, just like the students are calling in today, and you would just be able to talk to me. Python support. Trevor's asking about Python support approval. Not really, but Tron responded, and I love this when this happens. People answer each other's questions. Yep, sure. I'm not the smartest guy in the room anyway. So he's saying I was in a meetup yesterday, and who said it has formally been approved. Okay, so I think sounds like that's been approved. That's good. Darrell, your comment caught my eye. I'm gonna paste that in here. I haven't read it, so I don't know where it's going. We're past the hour, my friends. How cool is that? So when your grandma said that, or your mom said, be home before midnight, nothing good happens after midnight. She was wrong, of course. All the cool stuff happened after midnight. So I've had this experience in so many calls that sometimes some of the best discussions happens later in the hour. Sometimes the last call. So when I do it with my class, I do like a last call, going once, going twice, and sometimes somebody would say something, and we would be like talking for another hour. Okay, let's see. So, guys, this is what I'm talking about. Look, everybody has data, right? I mean, law enforcement conducting crime analysis. How cool is that? Now, of course, my perception of law enforcement is painted by kind of Law and Order on the TV stuff. So that's what I'm imagining. Darrell, you in a suit and just doing cool stuff. Uh, and conduct crime analysis. So, guys, everybody has data. One of my favorite stories is when I was the official Power BI guy for a beauty pageant. That was cool. A story for another day. We are creating many Power BI dashboards across a large consortium of law enforcement agencies. We struggle cross-filtering across multiple date columns as well, such as offense date, report date, or other dates from CAD data. Yep, I understand that you cannot share this, but we can simulate that data. And oddly enough, this is ringing a bell because this question came in, I think, in the last Talk Power BI call, and it was maybe I can pull up those files as well. Yeah, I swear this came in. I think this was the last thing we discussed in the last Power BI call. Let me see if I can pull that up. And we're gonna talk about this today. So I do the same thing in my class. Sometimes I say, hey, this is covered in the course, but then I go on to discuss it because I think that's kind of rude. Say, hey, just go check the course. So I'm gonna maybe use that to jog my memory. Approaches. I talk Power BI, da da da. So yeah, it was the last, some of the last things. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, got it. Yeah, so they had just 2 dates, but you can extrapolate that example. So they had some dates, and of course in AdventureWorks I used sales date and ship date. So I'm just gonna pull up that file, and this time it's gonna be easy. I'm not gonna be going a wild goose chase here finding that file because I know exactly where that is. Famous last words. 2 dates. Bingo. How about that? Trevor was the person who asked the question. So while that file is opening, mm, you know what? I'll give you guys a tour of my course. How was that? Because so I talked about I really believe that the true strength of Power BI is under the hood. And I feel if you look out at what's happening, it kind of breaks my heart. Power BI is starting to look like PowerPoint. And many people are using it exactly like PowerPoint. Many people that I used to admire, let's say. No, just kidding, just kidding. It's all good, but I don't think that's the point. I mean, think of a good salesperson. I mean, you can be a good salesperson without being good at PowerPoint, but yeah, you can't just be a good salesperson just by being really slick at PowerPoint. So now, if you get really slick at visualization and you all the tricks and you use bookmarks to turn this on and turn that off and all these fancy lights and ribbon charts, God help me, I think you're missing the point. I mean, that's okay. If that's what you want to do, that's what your thing is. But again, so visuals. So yeah, this is how. So zero to dashboard. This one is available on my YouTube channel to everybody. But that really just sets the stage, and then I focus on what I believe are the core fundamentals. And it's the 80-20 rule. It's the 20% of the stuff that's going to give you 80% of the returns. And frankly, for the rest of the stuff, people often go in different paths anyway. So if you try building a course for that, it's going to become crazy. It's going to become like an encyclopedia. So I do this, and then of course we do a lot of hands-on. We meet weekly, and I do pretty much the same thing I'm doing here, where I help them over the questions. So again, so I focus on query engine, and the one that I wanted to point you out to was relationships. So I wanted to point it out just to say that yeah, this is important, and a lot of people struggle with that, which is yeah, relating table using multiple fields, which is exactly your case, right? And I showed 2 solutions for it, and then we compare and contrast, like which is a good way to do it. I had another thought. Oh yeah, so let's step back for a bit. Like, what are these multiple dates? What do these multiple dates represent? Oh man, now you're getting me excited, my friends, because I'm going to be talking about modeling, which is crafting this model. So, um, who was the famous sculptor who said something like, I mean, they asked him like, how did you create such a beautiful sculpture? And he said, you know what? I didn't do anything. The sculpture was already there. I just kind of uncovered it. Now, of course, that's a very humble statement and it's a sign of brilliance. But man, I really sculpt the model. Everything in here is intentional. Everything, every little piece, every relationship, every direction, dotted, not dotted, all of that. Don't let it auto detect anything. Okay, and so what do the multiple dates represent? Well, First of all, let's see what the tables represent. So the tables represent, this is a data table. Data table typically represents a business process. Now, I'm not sure in law enforcement if that still applies. An offense was committed. Is that a business process? Maybe that is. Maybe that is. Um, because that's your business. So that tracks a business process. So it could be sales, could be shipment, could be offenses committed, all of that, right? So it's transactional. Whenever an event occurs, ping, something gets recorded about that transaction. Ping, something that recorded. And then you have with that the lookup tables, which are the who, what, where, when, how. Okay? I mean, simple. So guys, this is simple stuff. And seriously, I mean, DAX, when you get down to it, is all simple stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, when I realized it, I felt like I had been conned. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't be too critical. I am going to be too critical. So I had read all these experts talking about DAX, waxing pros, and I would read their stuff and not be able to get it. And then when I finally got like filter context, it's a very simple concept. Anyway, I get carried away. So this is the who, what, where, when, how. And again, I talk about that in the course. So actually, this is the who. Product is the what. This is actually when, so it's not in order. When, this is the where, and how can be something else like a discount and something like that, right? But the thing is that sometimes you can have multiple who, multiple what, multiple when, multiple where, right? So when is the easy one. So you can have, in this case, we have order date and ship date. When was it ordered? When was it shipped, right? Two answers. And they can be multiple, many more. When was it paid for? When did it leave the warehouse? And on and on and on. You can have 20 whens, 25, I don't care, right? What? Can there be multiple whats? A product that was ordered. Sure. The product that was ordered, maybe we didn't have it and we shipped a different product, right? That one wasn't available, we shipped something equivalent, something like that. Who? Who ordered it, who paid for it, who was invoiced, who approved it, all of that. So multiple who's, and then similarly multiple where. So that's what multiple dates represent. Sorry if I'm going too long, but again, I mean, I think once you get the concepts, kind of helps. So there are two ways to solve this multiple problem. And again, it's important that if you get it in the manner I explained it, then you can also tackle when you run into other things like this, when you run into multiple customers or multiple products. Because we're not just solving for calendar, we're solving for all of this. So if you have multiple dates, as I have order date and ship date, you have two options to solve it. One is using uh, using using the same table as the when, but having multiple relationships. Now the challenge for that is that only one relationship can be active at a time in the model. So if notice here that one of these is dotted, if I wanted this to become active, dark, I would have to make this one a dotted line. But I have the superpowers of DAX, which has no such limitations. Well, actually, it kind of does, but I can choose. DAX gives me the choice, and in DAX, I can turn relationships on or off at my will. Off at my will. Let's just say on. It's going to be easier to understand. On, and that's using the use relationship. So that way you can control which relationship you're going to see. Let's see that in example. Trevor. So notice here I have, it's the same model, exact same model, sales by order date or ship date. And then we go in here and we have one measure, sales, which is a simple measure, because it uses the default relationship. That relationship is already active. So this should actually say sales by order date because that's a default active relationship. Let me change that real quick. Sales by order date. Fair enough? Now the other one, sales by ship date, that depends on a relationship which is a dotted line right now. So it needs to be turned on, but that's as easy as this. You say, yep, calculate the same thing, but turn this relationship on. So notice how these numbers are different. I mean, this one is January 1st. By order date, we got these many dollars, but this is by ship date. And of course, this is glorious AdventureWorks data, so it's precisely 7 days later, everything was shipped. But in a real case, that'll be different. But that's just one approach. Another approach is to have a duplicate table, duplicate lookup table. So you can have calendar and ship calendar. And again, this is generic. So if you have multiple customers, you can have like the ship customer, the invoiced customer, the paid customer. So you can have multiple copies of that. So I wouldn't go too deep into that because I'm not really sure what exactly a scenario is, but it's definitely solvable. So whatever view you want to show, like, hey, I want to see by in this month how many offenses were committed, how many were reported, and blah 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 blah. You can do all of that. So hopefully that helps. Whew. Okay, cool. Mm, okay, got it. So sorry, I missed the last part of the question. Time duration is really really easy. It's a lot of fun because usually, so if you haven't seen time duration, handling time. Okay, actually, let me pause. So sometimes in a chat box, it's kind of hard to understand the question. So maybe, so I'll answer both questions. Maybe you were talking about like how do you, so using calendar, we can slice and dice using a calendar table, which by the way um, is on on my YouTube channel. But inside my course, I have a lot more detail on the calendar table. And frankly, calendar table is kind of a gift that keeps on giving. Let's see how many lessons I have in there. I have 8 lessons, but there are like 8 more in the queue for this one. But yeah, so you can find this on my YouTube channel as well. Some of these lessons, Ultimate Calendar Table. So that one lets you slice and dice by something like this. You can say, show me by months. That's what a calendar table does. Similar to that, you can have a timetable. And again, this may not be what you were asking. So a timetable is actually very simple. If you want to track time at an hourly level, it's going to have 24 rows, 1 to 24. That's it. If you want to track it at a minute level, well, it's going to have 24 hours times 60. I was joking yesterday on the call with my students that math has left me, and I think whoever I was speaking to said that, oh man, it has left all of us. So yeah, whatever is 24 times 60 is going to have that many rows, and that's it. And then you can categorize labels on there, which is you can say things like, oh, this hour is afternoon, and this is morning, and this is evening. Or if you have shifts, you can say this is my night shift, or this is my second shift, whatever you want. And frankly, uh, people think of the calendar table and sometimes they think that it's exotic. It kind of isn't. If you think about it, calendar table is just like the customer table. Its key is a unique key which identifies that grain, just like customer has a key. And then customer has attributes about that. Same way, calendar table has that key, but then it has attribute about that thing. So January 1st, oh, that was a Monday. And oh, that was in the month of Jan. Things like that. So similarly, timetable can have 0, 1 to 24, but then can have these attributes which go along. But maybe this is not what you were asking at all, and you were talking about duration as in span. And boy, this we solved recently as well, which is how long. Um, yeah, so this, oh boy, this is fresh. This was yesterday. So this was the mobile app example that I showed you. I didn't really show you anything. I just talked about it. Um, but they were saying, let's say, so in the mobile app, it was first usage to last usage. And how do we count that span? Maybe in your case, like first offense, last offense, something like that. That can be done as well. You can solve it in the query editor. It depend on the scenario. My first instinct would be to solve it in DAX, and I would do some. Yeah, sorry, I don't know specifically what the scenario is, but it's definitely solvable. Mm, yeah, you just okay. I'll leave it there for now. Whew, I gotta catch up with your messages. Dates have always been and always will be a PIA. PIA? I'm not sure. PIA. You just gotta work them. Mm, I don't know. I want to go back to my happy thoughts. I want to be in that happy space. Dates are awesome. So there was a point where I kind of caught myself, and sometimes I would use the word complex measure, but I have since been reformed, And I say amazing measures because usually that's what they are. Okay, cool. Got it. Dick, thanks so much for kind of interacting while I'm rambling on. And again, folks, if you're on the phone, feel free to chat. I know, I'd love to hear a human voice. No, well, I would actually if you want to chat. Maria, thank you. Okay, got it. Darrell, last week. Oh, Trevor, of course. Yeah, so good to see you on. Yeah, it was you. And okay, cool. Uh, we have used SAP Crystal Reports for many years. Yes, I've used Crystal Reports. And Power BI is awesome, and not for the typical reasons. So Power BI, usually people compare the visuals. They look at Power BI, the visuals, the fancy stuff. It really outshines anything that's out there under the hood in the clean shape transform, in the query editor, and the measures. That's the real strength of Power BI, but that's hard to show. I get it. I get it. So, Microsoft can't just go about, oh, look how awesome query editor. Nobody gets it unless you try it. So, really, in all my career, since I left Microsoft, even within Microsoft, uh, my way of selling Power BI to anybody is let's just do it. Just give me your data and let me add it and let me show you what's possible. That doesn't always sit well with the kind of the CEO crowd, but thankfully I typically don't deal with them. I like working with people in the trenches, as I was for many years. SAP Crystal for many years, Power BI great. Let us measure crime data, organizational metrics, and provide this data dynamically to our staff. Woohoo! Awesome. Okay, so Heather has a thought on what I was talking about. I think the reason Power BI is looking like PowerPoint is because so many people use PBI desktop. If they used it more in Excel, all those fancy charts aren't exciting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, for one, if there are any managers out there, and again, I cater to the folks in the trenches, so often I don't get kind of the managers, decision makers. But what is the time right now? 01:21, 17. Call to managers. I don't know, see whatever. If you're a CEO or something, I've had CFOs of small companies join my course, so that's not unheard of. But they're pretty hands down. They're pretty techy. Uh, I'll say is that don't be wowed by fancy visuals. And I don't know, maybe I'm making an assumption from my biased point of view. Maybe they're not. Maybe they are smart enough to ask deeper questions and just ask for kind of proof of concept. That's the best damn way. So sometimes, even with Power BI consultants, they're out there, my friends. What they do is you get Power BI, but it's lipstick on a pig. So I've seen these cases where a consulting company would come in, show some kind of a fancy visual chart, and say, "Hey, you can have this," and then they deliver that in a really quick time. But then you look under the covers, and and they're doing a lot of manual copy paste, still whatever in Excel, and just putting this pretty visual on it. That's just horrible. That is lipstick on a pig, my friend. So don't want to do that. It's not about that. It's about if you do things right. And again, so when I talk about model, I talk about modeling. And one of my Excel friends said to me, Avi, stop using that word. Nobody in Excel word gets it. But I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. So really quickly, what is the difference between a model? What is a model, right? Um, so for typically when I was in Excel world, when I would build something, I didn't know the word model. I mean, like, what is a model? I don't know. I was pretty much building reports, right? With me. So somebody said, I want to see sales year over year by territory. That's what I would build. All right. Now, of course, in the Excel world, I could be really smart, could use macros, but pretty much as soon as they changed on me, and often they did, as soon as I showed them the report, they said, Avi, this is awesome, man. That's exactly what I asked for. But can you show me a breakdown by customer or something like that, right? There was always be a comeback. And that should be because that's how humans work, peeling an onion. That's the natural process. But then I would go, oh my God, and I would have to change up everything in my report. So I was creating reports And sometimes people come to Power BI and they are still creating reports. I see that and it makes me want to cry. Like, guys, stop it. Just stop it, right? So they're creating reports. Model doesn't answer the question that's being asked right now. Well, let me rephrase that. So a report answers the question that's being asked right now. If your manager asked, "Give me sales year over year by territory," that's what you build. And sometimes people build that in Power BI. But a model answers that question and the question that's coming after that, and possibly the rest of the questions that are going to be asked around that data set in the next damn year. Yeah, so once you build it right, man, I can tell you anything and everything about sales, anything there is, right? So that's the model. Uh, so yeah, no lipstick on a pig, and I know the workers are usually smart enough because they live the reality, but sometimes the managers all they see is the fancy visuals. Okay, wow, I'm way behind in chat. I don't even know how far you guys. I feel ya. Duration data timing QE drives me crazy. What's it for? Duration data type. I have not used it. Oh, hold on. Let me catch up with the comments. Okay, good. Response times. Yep. So response times, kind of A minus B. That can be done in the query editor, and something else as well. Uh, Average minutes, etc. Yep. Once you get, kind of, I don't know, time end minus time start, and then you can I would turn it into a number. I don't know what the so I think somebody else is talking about a duration data type. I have not worked with that. Frankly, even if there is a duration data type in the query editor, there is none in the model. So once you bring it into your Power BI model, it's going to probably translate to something anyway. So I'll just make it like a decimal number or something, and just make the right conversion. Standard deviation. Yeah, this is a lot of cool stuff. So standard deviation, of course, there are standard DAX functions for standard deviation. You should be able to use those. Trevor has a good question. How far behind am I? 122, like 8 minutes behind. Okay, in your comments. This is 26, 25. So is it harmful to use date as the key in a data table rather than date key? Actually, no, it's not. So yeah, short answer is no. And you really don't need date key. And so let's talk about something else. So in here, of course, this is AdventureWorks. So all of this is a key. So if you look at the data, and if I look at the sales table, everything is a numeric key. And in the old warehouses technology or databases, that was a good practice. Everything was a key, everything was numeric. Now, if you do not, if your data does not look like that, if it does look like that, if you have keys maybe already connecting to a data warehouse, then that's great. Just go with that. But if it doesn't look like that, and in fact, sometimes you have like a product SKU, which is alphanumeric, don't feel like you have to have a key to connect it. You can just use that. So if it's like, I don't know, like something like SKU 1234, so an alphabetical something, right? I mean XYZ 934, something like this. You can use that to connect. It's okay. I mean, they have built so many optimizations inside it. So to give you a really quick peek, what it does is it kind of builds the keys for you. It builds a hash table, I think that's what's called. So it'll go through this list and convert it into keys for you. So you don't have to, if there are keys there already, use them. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about that. Gustavo is there from Medellin. Hello, Gustavo. Okay. Oliver is talking about pain in the rear, something. Fabio, can I filter a slicer by cross highlighting from a visual? Now, you cannot do that, of course. When somebody asks me a question like that, I try to understand what's going on behind that. So this one is it's actually not well, Fabian, at least a screen name. Gosh, I need to catch up. So can I filter? So let's actually come back to this. Can I filter a slicer by cross highlighting from a visual? So how that would look like is that you have a slicer here, and then imagine if I click this, then the slicer would, oh well, that's a bad example, but let's try this. If I clicked on April 14th, then the slicer would filter down to that as well. Now this one doesn't do that. I don't think there are some custom visuals out there which act like slicers. There are chiclet slicers and so forth. Uh, I don't think they would act like that either. Mm, I don't know. Let's think a little bit out of the box. And again, it might not solve your problem, but well, let's just see what's possible. So you could have a table, right? And of course, tables can be used for filtering too. So somebody can select June 14th here, and it filters everything else. And I can even multiple control. Can I? August. Is it working? Is it not working? I can't tell. Huh, that's weird. Oh, it was working. It was just a little slow for some reason. So I can multiple select, and you notice what's happening here. I am multiple selecting here, and that is kind of filtering here. It's actually highlighting, but I can force that to filter too. So maybe just a list, because a list is a filter too. So you can say, so let's change this to something else. Let's change this to an year. Fair enough. So we're gonna go to calendar, or what about quarter? Let's try quarter, quarter. So we have quarter over there. Oops, let's try that again. And if I click on Q1, now the list below is filtered to all the Q1s, and I can just say, you know what? In Q1, show me January. Did that work? Oh my God, it worked. Woohoo! So maybe this helps you. Maybe it doesn't. Or maybe you know, I mean, of course, if I was working with you, then I'm trying to understand the complete scenario. Duration types, Roberto is asking about that. That's a good one. I haven't worked with it. And so this was, I'm just gonna take some quick notes here and we'll see which one I attack. Roberto, I feel you. Ooh, okay. Trevor has, let's see if we can copy the whole thing. So, let's do this, guys. So in order to be able to catch up with you, uh, maybe I'll have somebody monitor the chat next time, but for now, I'm just gonna grab all the questions and see, pick some easy ones, and then the heavy hitting ones, we'll dive into those. Got that, got that. Oliver was asking, I often wonder what's the better way to connect PBI to tabular model. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Owen, hello there, Owen Auger. Darrell is asking, I think the built-in filter does not do this, but there's one in custom visual library. Okay, so that's worth trying. Mm, maybe you turn relationships to both. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, now that you can use control click, I use the list for this too. So to kind of cross filter multiple of these, I would do Q2, and I was holding down the control key. I couldn't really show you, but I was holding down the control key while I clicked April 14th. And okay, yeah, it's really slow. There we go. And if I hold down the control key again and click May 14th, I think it went up. June 14th. Yeah, there we go. Um, yeah, I think that's reasonable. That's a good option to have. Okay, cool. I think I'm all caught up. So let's look at your questions. Duration type. Yeah, I don't know about that. That one is easy. So I don't know about that one as well. I imagine you get this when you say, I don't know, date time 1 minus date time 2. Uh, I'll I'll probably just do number dot format, and not number dot from, sorry, in the query editor. Convert that to a number, and that might be in seconds or whatever, and then convert it by dividing it. Yeah, I have not worked with that, but maybe I'll try that out. Let's try this one first. So Oliver is asking, I often wonder what's the better way to connect Power BI to a tabular model where you already have measures, or to connect to a denormalized database and start from scratch. Oh boy, that's a good one. Hmm. Okay, so let's talk about two things. One is IT versus business, and author, publish, consume. And sorry, so Oliver, I think you have hung out quite a bit with me, so it might be repetition for you, but I just want to make sure that anybody else who's listening also kind of gets something out of this. So let's talk about author, publish, consume. That one is easy. Let's see if I can actually pull that visual. So the idea there is that you author a model, and your authoring tool could be Power BI Desktop, could be Excel using Power BI inside Excel, and doesn't really matter. And then you build it, and building the same thing, same exact thing. You got the query editor, you got your kitchen to clean shape transform, bring it in, then you define your relationships and your measures in the dining area. You kind of present the food and ready for consumption, and then they consume it in the reports. Wow, that worked great. I don't know why I suspected that analogy. So that's your authoring tool, but then you publish it. You publish it somewhere where it becomes a single source of truth. So guys, in Excel world, we used to build an army of Excel files. And please don't do that in Power BI. Don't replace an army of Excel sheets with an army of Power BI sheets. Author, publish, consume. Yeah, there it is. Uh, So it doesn't matter where you write the tool. And it's not just Excel. You can also build it in SQL Server data tools, blah. But then you publish it, and one of the default de facto options is PowerBI.com, but there are other options too. There is SSAS Tabular. I think you can publish to Power BI Report Server. You can publish to Azure Analysis Services and Cloud. But the idea is simply so that now it becomes that single source of truth, and any reporting connects to that. So the reporting layer is a very thin layer. It doesn't do any heavy lifting. It just does the pretty pictures. And that's why I keep saying that visualization is easy if you do your model right. Right? So if you build a model, then building a visualization is like walking in with your shopping cart in a grocery store and just, oh, I want this, I want some apples, I want some oranges. That's what it should be like. And not just that, it frees you up and lets you choose any visualization tool of your choice. You can use Power BI reports, but we would often have a lot of Excel reports connecting to the same model just because Excel can do things which pretty much no other tool can. Nothing comes close to a pivot table. And when you are working for a finance team and you see them fly through a pivot table fast, you realize that, man, you can't build anything in Power BI to match that. And why even try? One of the stupidest ideas, sorry if you're on the call, but okay, I'll say it anyway, man. Hey, my goal was to piss off one person, so I hope you're on the call. One of the stupidest ideas I've seen on PowerBI.ideas.com or ideas.powerbi.com is give me a pivot table. I'm like, why the heck do you need a pivot table? You already have a pivot table. Just use Excel. You have the best goddamn pivot table in the world and connect that to your Power BI model. So they're asking for a pivot table in Power BI, kind of Power BI desktop. So you can use any tool, but now let's talk about IT versus business. And I'm kind of generalizing it. IT in my mind represents somebody who's kind of has the keys to the kingdom. They have access, direct access to the data source, and not just read, but maybe even write access. And so yeah, the kings of the kingdom, they rule the roost. Now the business sides, they're kind of limited, and they maybe get read-only access, but then they do a lot of stuff on their own. And now they use the same tools. They can, both IT and business. So an IT guy can use Power BI Desktop, or a business user can use Power BI Desktop, but also their goals are different. IT is trying to build something for the complete user base. A business user is usually trying to serve just a few users, a small team, maybe just themselves and the manager as a small team. Uh, so if you go back to the question, So one approach is that, let's call it the single model approach. All right. So sometimes what I do is I exaggerate something to see how it's going to play out. For example, measures versus calculated column. I say, what if we had 100 calculations and we define 100 measures? What's going to happen then? And what if we define the same thing as calculated columns, 100 calculated columns, and then I amp it up? What if there were 1,000 things? Would you add 1,000 calculated columns? You see where I'm going. So now let's exaggerate the problem, and let's say that there's only a single model in the whole organization. There cannot be any other model. Then typically IT is going to control it, and they're going to keep it on SSAS, and everybody can create reports all they want. But if they want a change in the model, you go back to IT. And it's going to be the standard. You submit a request, and it's going to go in the queue, and they're going to green light it. And so, oops, sorry, you didn't make it, and try it next month again or next quarter or whatever. Actually, it's not going to be that bad. This is going to be pretty fast. So if your IT team is doing it right, it's Agile BI. But that's how it's going to be. But on the other hand, let's say IT publishes what they publish, but then users, they create their own mini models all they want. So you've kind of given that freedom. Now, of course, if that gets out of hand, that goes crazy as well. So in here, so I think that's what, so sorry, I took a long way to get to the point, but that's what the question is around. So if you're building that model, what do? Do you just connect to that single SSAS model? Or do you go to the source and build your own? Uh, Boy, so I think the short answer to that is the lawyer answer. It depends, but I will say I'll start with the SSAS approach because it's going to make things so much easier for you. And I'm going to show a feature which now I lost track. So again, guys, we're talking about this. All of you may be aware, and boy, it's one of my really hot favorite features. So let's open a new desktop model, and I'm going to connect to SSAS. So now I'm a business user, and I don't want to do the heavy lifting. I just want to, kind of eat the cake, right? So I just want to consume what IT has published. And what I'm going to do is, when it comes up, I have a lot of things running right now. There we go. Is I'm going to connect to an SSAS model. So notice what happens here. Right now I have these three panes over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get data, and I'm going to say connect to analysis services. And where did that window pop up? Oh, there it is. And my server is right on my local machine, so just dot connect live. There's also an import option. We can, let's save that for another day. And then, what do I have? Okay, this weird model, but imagine this is the official model that my IT team has published, and I hit OK, and something really funny happens. Notice how the other tabs went away, because now this is just a thin connection. This is like a dumb terminal, right? So it doesn't have the model. It's connecting to the single source of truth, which is good. You got the single source of truth, but then you have, let's zoom out. Then you have all of the measures in here, so you can go to town with it. What do I have? Sum of sales amount, and I can say show that to me by calendar month, and of course it sorts in a funky way, and I can say show that to me by maybe is there a territory in there? See that territory? So you get the idea. So you can build your report, but there's nothing inside this model. There's nothing you can see. But again, the challenge here was that what if you need to make a change? Now, this is something which I think is revolutionary. It is huge. Let's say I wanted to define well, the customer count is already there, but product count. How about that? How many different products were sold? I just wanted to define that, but I don't want to go to IT and submit a request and have it be greenlit. But now I can define my own measure even when I'm connecting to an official cube. So I can come in here and I'll say products sold count equals, and you can pretty much use any DAX you want, and product key, and that's it. So this gives the business users so much more flexibility. So now I can say, this is the sales, and I'll say, where's my product count? Where did I put it? Product sold count. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you get the idea. So you can define your measures. So I think this is a very elegant approach. This is a very balanced approach. This is what I would recommend starting out. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just layer on top of it. And here's where this gets like awesome. So if you build something and you build a measure which is like, hey, I really need it, and then you pass it around in your team and everybody loves it, then two things can happen. Either you can go to IT and say, hey, I added this thing and everybody loves it, or if IT team is smart, they will pick it up proactively. They'll say, wow, look at this report. It's getting a lot of usage. What's going on? Oh, they have this measure which we don't have in a model, and they will proactively add that in the model. And now everybody can use it, right? Not just you. So anybody new who comes in, it'll just be available. Boy, that was a good question. Okay, let me scroll down. I do need some water. Oh, shoot. Okay, so Trevor is saying SSAS has some better options API wise. It does have a lot of bells and whistles. So I've used SSAS. I'm a bit of a fan of SSAS. Uh, for me, from my perspective, I was stunned how easy it was to use SSAS because I expected it to be like a dev geeky thing, but it took me like 30 minutes to set up, and I could wrap my head around SSAS. So by the way, SSAS guys is just an elder cousin of Power BI. It's no big deal. SSAS has the same model, same relationship, same exact DAX. So but it's an upgrade. So you can take your skills in Power BI and play in essentially a bigger field, bigger data sets, and other bells and whistles. Okay, let's see. So you had some good discussion here while I was yakking away. So Trevor's saying, in my case, the staging data is normalized, and I'm going to consume the denormalized data with Python, pandas, I think. Wow. What's this world come to? Python and pandas? So I suppose Python, I've heard the reference to that. Pandas, I don't even know. Is that a thing? But gosh, you guys are smart. Good. Um, so yeah, normalized and denormalized. So I may not completely understand, Trevor, what your reference is, but when I worked with the database guys, they love normalization and something like that. And I read up about it, and I read it in school as well. They would talk about this third normal form. Uh, and I'm not saying Trevor's talking about that, but I think that's relevant, so I'll bring it up. That so if you are connecting to a database, and if you think or you suspect that it's in the third normal form, uh, then that's not a good form for your Power BI model. All right, so let me just say that. So Power BI model is more like a cube model. Let me put the timestamp on this. 4720, 20. I think well. So that's not a good form for Power BI because Power BI is a cube model. Cube, I can't type, which actually needs the star schema. That's a fancy word. I call it the data and lookup table. So it's slightly different. So just be warned. Frankly, even if you connect with your data warehouse, which has a star schema, supposedly, uh, I haven't had a great experience connecting with data warehouse. So often I do have to do still a lot of cleanup of myself for data warehouse, even if I'm connecting with data warehouse. Okay, let's see. SSAS is better at dealing with huge data sets. Yep. So the biggest data set that I've come across was I think at NBC Universal, and they had a terabyte of data. Now this wasn't on their SQL database. This was well, as soon as they got it in SSAS, and Power BI has the same compression technology, so it's the same thing. It was compressed down to 250 megabytes, which is awesome, but still 250 megabytes. And again, a terabyte of data kind of at source. So that was, yeah, it can definitely handle big data. And it's funny how the definition of big data has changed. So I was speaking to one of the students, and they said, "Oh, our data is big," and I said, "How many? How many rows?" And I don't know, they said some thousand, like I don't know, 50,000 or something, I don't know, 500,000. I'm like, well, I mean, unless it gets to 100 million, I don't think of it as big data. And you can handle 100 million rows in Power BI. Uh, there has been a demo, which I think Microsoft has done publicly, which they show a trillion rows. Now that's impressive, and it's responsive. Okay, great. Oliver, thank you so much. So yeah, no, the new model only lives in kind of this file, in kind of this report. But again, I think that's revolutionary because it just cuts that cycle of you having to go to the authorities who have the keys to the kingdom, and wait for when they're ready to do it. Yeah, you can just define your own measures, define your own calculations. Again, it's limiting. I mean, if you need to craft the data model, if you need to add a field in there, you still have to go back to them, but still it gives so much flexibility. PP3P is on. Hi there. BP3. It's a lot of B's. Uh, Cedric is here. So PC Ra was asking, can you ask a question unrelated to your session? My friend, I'm close to the second hour. I'll answer anything right now. I don't know. My barriers are really low. So don't ask something personal. So pandas is M. Is pandas M? Is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know. Is that like a nickname? Michael Angelo. Wow. I think you guys are having inside jokes now, which I'm not a party to. I worked with SQL for 20 years and still have no idea what third normal form is. Yeah, you're not missing much. My question above is weird, so don't worry. Okay, got it. I'll read it. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Is locally in IT shut added to the model? Yep, should. Yep, got it. Cool stuff. Okay, let's see what Trevor has to share. And guys, yeah, I mean, you can share thoughts and comments too. Um, I'm building a new shrink wrap platform type of PBX that I intend to sell into companies. And each will require some customization. Because data sources will be very different from company to company, I've decided to do essentially all of the data modeling in MS SQL. And then I basically just do a straight import of that data into Power BI. This basically completely isolates the ETL portion of the project from the PBIX portion. I love it. I love it. That is awesome, guys. So I'll share a story with you. So I was working with, let's say, well, actually it was one of the four big consulting firms. And if you ask me right now to name them, I wouldn't even be able to name them. So, but yeah, it was one of the big four. And the unit we were working with was in charge with mergers and acquisitions. All right. And this team, this highly paid acquisitions, this highly paid team would swoop in when two companies were merging or acquiring, and tell them whether that was a good deal or not, right? And they could work for either party, somebody who was being bought and somebody who was buying somebody. Yeah, hey, whoever was going to pay them, right? But they would swoop in, and then their job was to just dive into the data set, just go crazy, just dive in there, and just tear the heck apart, and just uh, but basically the output was a standard set of reports. But of course, the source data they would find was always different, kind of like what Trevor is describing. So I proposed to them pretty much the same solution that Trevor is describing, where you isolate kind of the ETL with the model. So imagine if the source data is always something different. Sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's red. Let's see how many colors I can do. Sometimes it's green, right? Source data is always different. But we don't care. Do I have some other color? I think I ran out of colors. Okay, I'll go back to orange. We define our model based on a standard structure. And by the way, this is man. So Trevor, if you've heard any news about the, what is it called? The common analytics model, Uh, Common, I think that's what it's called. That's a recent announcement of Microsoft, which is the same idea. So you define a model along with the tables and relationships and measures and all of that, and then from here you define your reports. Uh, and when you go to any company, well, you just translate their source data to this model. When you go to Blue, you just kind of translate that to this one, and same one, and you have cut your problem not even in half. I mean, this is probably, I don't know, 1/4 or maybe even 1/10 the effort of trying to create the standard set of reports right from a source data set. But at least that Big Four consulting firm, they didn't even, they paid no attention to me. I thought I still think that this is a revolutionary idea, but they were like, okay, I mean, whatever, So yeah, I love your idea. Definitely look at the common data analytics. What is that called? Whatever that thing is called. Although I am skeptical. Yeah, I can be candid with you guys. I'm skeptical about Microsoft getting it right. Hopefully, no Microsoft folks are there. But I don't know. Yeah, I yeah, I think working as a business analyst, kind of the bottom of the totem pole, you definitely get pretty strong on skepticism, where you look everything skeptically. The typical behavior, how we are trained, is every few years, a word would come down from high above, like, oh, we're going to be using this tool for BI, and it's going to solve all our problems. And after you go through that once, twice, thrice, and you realize that you have to come back to Excel for better or worse all the time anyway, you realize that, man, help is not coming. You're on your own. Doesn't matter which tool you use. Finally, you're going to hit export to Excel, because there's going to be that one last piece, the last mile, which you cannot do in that given tool. So, but now help is here. And again, I was skeptical of Power BI as well to begin with, but of course, once you see it in action, you say, oh man, this stuff is for real. Okay, cool. Common data model. MSFT common data model supports measures. Okay, good. Watch. Okay, I gotta catch up on some pandas video. Pandas is basically, oh wow, hey, I learned something new today. How about that? Okay, so PC Rao has a question about KPIs. Let's pull that up. Um, so, and again, so folks, I would, hey, we are friends now. We've been talking for close to 2 hours, so I can't keep up with my email. Can I share the screenshots? Yeah, my email inbox is kind of crazy. So, but I think that's where the community is great. I love the community. So we have, let's do this. So besides our course, we have an amazing Facebook community just for our students. So this is the older one. This is what I started off with. And yeah, man, it's got tons of amazing, cool members. What do I do this? Uh, and yeah, there's a lot of kind of discussion here. And initially, when we set this up, way back, way back in 2017, beginning of 2017, I was answering all the questions because the community was really small. It was just starting out. I don't know, people were shy, but now I rarely get a word in edgewise because I go in and the question has already been answered, like, it has 10 comments, and I'm like, oh shoot, now I have to read all the comments, not just the question. But I drop in whenever there's some help and so forth. So I'm active there. Of course, I do a lot of live in there too. Pretty much we do a weekly call. So any of these long calls, like hour plus calls, you can see 2 hours, 1 hour, 139. The longest we've done is a 3 hours and 1 minutes call. So I go live in there. So there's a lot of help there. So this is only for students, but there's also a light version of this, which is open to everybody. So uh, BC Rao, I'm just going to call you Rao. You can also hang out there, talk Power BI. So this is open to everybody, and again, it's kind of a light version, so I'm not as active in there as my student group. But and of course, you don't quite get the weekly calls that I do with students, but a lot of students are active in here as well. So I'll say to Rao, you and others that post a question there. But since I have you on the call, let me pull that up. Okay, Panda, gotta watch the Panda videos. Wow, Fabian has an excellent question. Guys, this is like awesome. I don't know. We're going strong here. You know what? I'm gonna do the same thing where I'm gonna just write down the questions. So this is, where did that go? Fabian. Got that. Trevor. Okay, that's a good question. And what else? So yeah, uh, BC Rao has a question about KPI. So BC Rao, I should be able to pull up. Now that I have you here, I can go kind of find your email. I think I glanced at your email. I think the problem is that you're using a calculated column. Oh wait, no, you say calculated measure. Somehow I remember that you said a column. Oh, have you? So maybe I can answer this quick question. So Trevor, I think is talking about a Microsoft event. Well, so Microsoft's biggest event is Data Insight Summit. For all intents and purposes, I call it the Power BI Summit. And there is one due this year. I, I, I mean, it should be happening, but there's no news on it. And frankly, everybody in the MVP community has been wondering, and we've been like asking Microsoft, but we haven't gotten an answer yet. So I would expect it to happen. And I love the event. So guys, bit of a tangent, but so I stopped teaching the live courses. So before I started my online course, I was pretty much teaching. I would go visit companies, mostly Fortune 500 and this that, and I would go 2 days and I would teach that. But then when I would follow up with the students, I realized that it's such a fire hose and it's exciting. You take a lot of notes and you meet people. That's a good part. Meeting people is a good part. You can't kind of right. So that's good, but they would not be able to go back and implement it. So of course, the way I built the course is that the course comes to you. You can watch it anytime you want, and then I want you to kind of implement it. And then I made sure that there's tons of help inside the course through the Facebook group, through our weekly Q&A calls. So that way, the example that I often use is, imagine if you wanted your child to learn Spanish, which me and my daughter have been working on Spanish together. You wouldn't send them to a 2 day boot camp, would you? I mean, that's a silly way to learn language, right? So why would you learn Power BI that way? It just doesn't make sense. Coming back to conference, so yeah, I mean, conferences, when I've been to there, it's a similar overload. I feel so drained and exhausted at the end of it. So frankly, what I did last time was I just hung out and talked to people. That's my favorite part anyway, if you can't tell already. So yeah, that's what I did. So it's coming, I guess. We'll see. Do Is Power BI same like QlikView and Tableau? Yep, exactly the same. No, just kidding. Just missing. What are you talking about, my friend? Power BI is like the real deal. It's it's the good stuff. Uh, I'll say go watch my video on YouTube about Power BI and Tableau. And I used the title verses in there, but if you watch the video, I'm gonna give away the ending to you. The last point is there's no verses.
5 different
You can
factors.
use all tools. Power BI is best under the hood. That's where it shines. Nothing. Yeah, I'll take you on. I mean, for a business user, there's nothing comparable. There's nothing which lets you kind of author and easily publish. And then if you want to connect QlikView, go ahead, do it. Connect Tableau, go ahead, do it. It doesn't matter, right? You can use any visualization tool you want. Visualization is easy. Uh, so we kind of answered that. So sorry, I need to move through quickly with the comments just to capture it, not to answer. That's a note to myself. I'm talking to myself now. Okay, so BC Rao has some more questions about that. I'm just gonna, hey, you don't have to type. I'm gonna pull up your email. Let's see. Okay, last one, Trevor Okay, got it. So I think this is a follow-up to your earlier comment. Uh, okay, so PC Rao, hang on. I'm gonna get to your question and I'm gonna pull up your email. And I hope you sent me a file. I hope you sent me a PBIX file because if you give me an example, man, I'm gonna have to spend. I will, if you make me. I will spend all this time recreating that example. But it just if you can send me a sample file with kind of some dummy data and something, then I can just get on it right away. So m- while I'm answering other questions, see if you can do that. If you've already done that, if you sent me a file, then we're good. I'm gonna pull it up in email. But let me see. So I got this. I got this. Oh, I think this was related to this one. Okay, bring it on. If you were trying to sell Power BI to a typical analyst, how would you do it? Yeah, that's like me in the past, right? I'm trying to help myself. What would you consider an approach to slowly win them over? So, yeah, it's going to sound kind of weird, but kind of the okay, this sounds weird. But I would show them. I would actually have them experience it. How about that? So my favorite approach is low-hanging fruit, something that was really hard. Or so, guys, we're gonna make sure you get access to these notes as well, so you don't have to like copy what I'm typing or something, right? And of course, you're gonna have the timestamp, so you can go back and watch it if you needed to watch it again. I think I need to qualify that. Okay. So when I'm working with somebody, I look for the low-hanging fruit, where I look at what's going on. I try to understand the reports and all this stuff. Okay, what are you trying to do? What are the stuff that you have thought about but not being able to do? And then I'm looking for these things which are really hard right now or impossible. They just haven't even been able to do it. And they're like, oh yeah, that thing takes me like so long, or oh yeah, I have to like and do it manually and it I make errors all the time, but it's really easy in the new world. And there are so many examples. There are so many things that you would run into, and some are. I'll just tell you what I look for because they're so easy. I mean, like seriously, so easy. So some of the things I'm trying to find the file. I have like 5 Power BI files open now. First thing that I look for is relationships. Sometimes you can solve a problem just by having relationships in there. So they might have a flat table with a lot of calculations, a flat table with 100 columns, and it's really slow. Well, you can, make a model out of it, data and lookup tables and relationships, and boom, it's solved, right? So I look for things which can be solved by relationship. There are many other scenarios here which can be solved by relationships. Another classic one is two data tables. So sales and budget, sales and support, anything unimaginable where you're saying, oh, we have this data coming from one source from our SAP system, but then this data comes from another source. And how do we compare it side by side? Well, that one is like brain dead easy in here, right? So because this is plug and play, my friend, right? Plug and play. How cool is that? So once you define sales, once you define one model, let's say for one data table, and you have the standard lookup tables, who, what, where, when, how. Here's the good thing. The who, what, where, when, how, sorry, I didn't want to zoom in. The who, what, where, when, how, the lookup tables are what I call uh, durable entities, which means that they will apply typically as you bring in more data tables. So if you're running a business and if you have a customer table, that's the customer table. That's a list of your customers, right? There's not going to be, so if you're tracking sales, you can connect to that customer table. If you're tracking support calls, you will still connect to that customer table. You don't have to create new ones. So these are durable entities. So bringing in new data sets are really very easy because you bring it in and then you just plug and play. So if budget is by product, you plug that in. If by calendar, you plug that in. And if it's by territory, it's plugged into three places and you're done. You're good, right? So that's plug and play. Another one on calculation side is time intelligence. I always look for that. So let's make some examples here. And you guys can throw in your ideas, and it'll probably take me a few minutes to get to it. I'm slower than you. So relationships, I look for that. Multiple data tables, and I'll put this classic example here, but it can apply to any sort of things. What else? Time intelligence, that's an easy one. So easy to do in Power BI. And man, try doing time. And again, not that you couldn't do time intelligence in Excel. You could show year over year report, but again, everything was kind of hard coded. There was no magic of define once using magical DAX define once use everywhere measure. You essentially in Excel you built a report. You said, oh, this is by territory, and then if something changed, you had to do a new report. What else? What else? Uh, Maybe I'll look through your notes. I'm sure there are tons of other ideas. So I look for that, and then I just actually implement the project. Oh, of course, then something involving the query editor, like connecting to a folder. Oh boy, I mean, find somebody who is doing this right now in like a hokey way using Excel macros or God forbid manually. Yes, there are people out there who do it manually. They open the file, copy, paste it, and append it to the end of another file. It's just crazy, right? And you show them, oh, you can just connect to this folder and poof, suck in all the files, and that's it. So, and there's so much more here. So I look for that. Uh, yeah, so look for the easy wins. That's what I go for. And you show them that one thing. And so again, it has to be their data. I don't really believe in demos. I don't, yeah, I mean, I've done consulting with a lot of companies. I just didn't have a fancy demo slide deck, a fancy Power BI, nothing. I just go in and say, yeah, let's work with your data. I think something simple you can do with their data is so much more powerful than any fancy demo you can show. But that's just me. Wow, so man, questions keep coming in. Okay, got it. Size, hey Trevor, size sense, I've heard of that. I would love to know what you talking about this one. So let's get to Trevor's question. So this is 210. 53. Hey Carl and Munir, I'm so glad you guys are on the phone. Hopefully, I always say I love the group calls because you don't only learn from your own questions, you learn from everybody's questions. So I love that part. But again, I mean, you can chime in anytime. So Trevor is saying I have my default base model, data, and reports. Now if customer A gets everything, and then customer, oh, okay, okay, got it. Did I? I think I never. Ah, okay, got it, got it. So for a second, I felt I didn't answer your earlier question, but I think I did. But let's go back to that. Default base model. Now, if customer A gets everything, then customer B gets standard minus something plus something else. Yeah, sure, there's going to be customization. And then I do a new version and need to redeploy. Is there any way to script the UI part? As a very normal tradition. Yes. Yeah, I've heard a lot of chatter around this. I think in the ideas site and so forth. So it's not just you. So for a second, let's think about. So in the Power BI world, I would think, how would you deploy it for them? And actually, I would love to know how you're thinking about it. So one is of course Power BI template files, and that's an okay way to go. But this way, you kind of give them your secret sauce. I have heard other models where you, as a consultant, host their model plus reports and you give them access. So it's kind of on your system and you give them access. I've heard about that. That way they don't see your model. They don't see what you're doing. They don't see your measures. They don't see any of that. Uh, but to come back to how scripting, well, So I know in SSAS you can script it, but of course SSAS is kind of an on-premise solution. So I'm not sure how it's going to work in kind of a consulting arrangement where you're serving multiple companies. Do you have kind of your own server which is running SSAS? Then how are you giving them access? Maybe you can do that. Um, of course, instead of SSAS on-prem, you can look at Azure Analysis Services, which is the same thing in cloud, and I would believe would have same scripting technology. So SSAS, this could be scripted. You could script because we would do scenarios like, and again, it's very typical in dev environment, right, where you would have these different layers, kind of dev, user acceptance testing, and then production. So we would say, yep, deploy it here, and then we would flip it to production and things like that. So SSAS has a lot of scripting capabilities. Trying to remember. So those are the things that I can think of. Okay, so we already talked about this. So PC Rao, are you the only man left standing? Is that size sense? Okay, got it. Ankur, so only on tile. Okay, fair enough. Let's get to Ankur's question. And you know what? I'll do the same thing so I can catch up with your comments. Yeah, boy, Vishal has come back with a hard question. Okay, Oliver is commenting on an earlier discussion. So he's saying, hey, it depends on the use case. For visualizations, go with Power BI. For lists and easy calculations, go with Excel. Oh, okay, that's the question. So hold on, let me just write them down. Oh, how does a person call in? So that is for my students. The link did go out, but yeah, only if you're a student would you be accessed. Well, if you are a student, so sorry, sometimes I forget, like, Trevor, are you a student in my class? Then there was a link which went out in the email. Is it in the post as well? Mm, actually, yeah, check your email because I did, when the reminder email I sent to anybody, if you're signed up on the learnpowerbi.com/challenge, then I sent the reminder email in which I said, hey, go to YouTube. If you're a student, then follow this link. Fabian, thank you so much. Yeah, so Trevor has an interesting problem. He needs to have multiple UI versions, one per client, and are they all need to be always at the same level, or they might be at a different level? But I think that's still doable. I certainly feel that you might be able to script that in SSAS. And again, I have not worked with Azure Analysis Services, but I would assume that it has the same scripting capabilities. This one was really flexible. Was Yeah, I mean, I only scratched the surface. I was only using the scripting for like managing some refresh and this that simple stuff, but it seemed to have like a full support for that, built for that. So you should be able to do that. You should be able to say, when you're upgrading which one. Uh, I'll say looking at that. I guess that's about it anyway. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember what that language was. Now I feel a little rusty. Let's see if I can bring that up. Okay, got it. All right, so BC if you're still on, I'm trying to get to your question as quick as I can. Let's get these ones. So I think yours might take some time, so that's why I'm seeing if we can do quick ones. I have a tile and dashboard. When I click on the tile that redirect to report level, how can I disable that? Well, that should be somewhat straightforward. Let's go to powerbi.com and sign in. You should be able to do that. Let me read the next one. How can I connect to the server on Power BI and run the visualizations? Uh, So, okay, I know the answer. So for this, let's go to a dashboard. And if you click on the ellipses in the tile, I think you can control where that goes. So if you say edit tiles, and you can say set custom link. And what I do is I link it to itself. And I mean, yeah, I wish there was a way to disable it, but I don't know. So I'll say open custom link in the same tab. Let's try that again. So I'll say, so they don't open a new tab, and then I would stick the same URL in there. Or maybe even you can, I wonder if you can link to kind of the same dashboard. I wonder if it'll let you do that. Or report. So yeah, try that. Sorry, my screen is flickering. So try one of those things. I'll stick that in the notes just so we have it. So how do I connect? So Avi keeps saying you can connect any tool. So yeah, I mean, I left out some details. So yeah, it depends on where it's published. So the easiest option is SSAS, because SSAS is actually, so SSAS Tabular is like a new thing. SSAS Tabular is pretty much Power BI. It has DAX, it has the same relationships, all that sort of stuff, and yeah, it looks like Power BI model. It is Power BI model. Uh, so that's the easiest option. So if you have an SSAS server running, which I have running right now, that one is easiest to connect to, because in a way that technology is like decades old, because it's it works on kind of the same channels, if you will, as a much older technology, which is the SSAS multidimensional. That's still around, doesn't get as much love from Microsoft. So that means that a lot of tools absolutely know how to connect to this. So I will say that is your easiest option. So the easiest option is SSAS, and any tool I would bet can connect to that. If you go on PowerBI.com, maybe someday they're going to allow it. I think if you go Azure Analysis Services, which is SSAS and cloud, then maybe you would be able to do it. I'm not sure. PowerBI.com, actually right now you can't connect like a third-party tool to that, but maybe soon it would let you. I think so. Okay. So so I don't so Oliver, again, the way I think is I just think in terms of author, publish, consume. So when I'm authoring the model, then I like Power BI Desktop. I have worked almost exclusively in Power BI Desktop for the past year, 2 years. Frankly, the reason when I switched, it was kind of hard to switch because I mean any change is hard. But once I switched, I found it so much more stable than Excel. I yeah, I mean Excel somehow was kind of flaky for me. I've heard from at that point, at least year, 2 years ago, I had heard from so many others that oh yeah, in Excel just. Yeah, I remember I was teaching one class, and as I was teaching and I was demonstrating it using Excel, Power BI, which is Power Pivot and Power Query, it crashed. And then I got so frustrated, I asked them that how many of you have had this happen, and all hands went up. And that's no surprise, I mean, so that's why I liked it. But of course, now I love it. Now I feel at home. That's the tool of my choice. So that's a bit of your personal choice, a bit of maybe what you're trying to do. But if you do follow this model, then your choice, oops, didn't want to zoom in. I just want to make sure, call out that your choice of authoring tools is different than your choice of consumption tool. You can author using Power BI Desktop, but you can still consume using Excel. So of course, once you publish, then those are two separate choices. So I decide which one do I want to use for author. That's for me always Power BI Desktop. Which one do I want to consume in, or my users, my client, and that's usually for me a mix of tools. So again, I've worked with finance teams a lot, so they love Power BI reports, but they also want Excel. So we go with a combo of that. That's will be a settled on. Ramon, Avi, what are different options in order to create a free account in order to be able to use Power BI Desktop? Well, so Power BI Desktop is completely free. So the only question is, oops, did I? Sorry guys, I forgot to put the timestamps in here. Sometime here. So this is Ramon. Go 2340. What are the different options in order to create a free account? So first of all, Power BI Desktop is completely free. That you can download. It's on your machine, and yep, you can use it whatever you want. You can save the files. It's going to save into a Power BI PBIX file, and that you can send it to anybody, and they can open it if they have Power BI Desktop installed. And again, they can install it for free. The only thing which even has the idea of paid component is really PowerBI.com. So, and again, that's the way I always talk about this. So PowerBI.com is the only one that has free and kind of paid tiers. So if you go to PowerBI.com and or if you are in here and if you click publish in here, then that's going to go to PowerBI.com. Then for sharing, you need that. Let me read where we don't have easy access to obtain dollars to subscribe. So well for personal use. So let me just write the whole thing down. So Power BI desktop free. Can I say forever? I mean, I can't make a promise on Microsoft, but forever for everyone. But I hope so. I believe so. uh, PowerBI.com free for personal use. So if you are using it with your account, you know, then go ahead and sign up. It's never going to ask you for a credit card or anything. Paid uh, if need to share. But the first time you need to share that report with somebody. So I need to send that report to somebody. And when I say sharing, I don't mean publish to web. Uh, there is an option to kind of make it public, publish to web, but that one, well, please don't do that if you have any sensitive data because it does make it public. It just puts it out there. Google can get it, other users can get it. So yeah, don't think that it's like an obscure URL that nobody can get to. Now in the days of Google, Google is God. That's yeah, right. I mean, it indexes everything, so don't put it out there. So if you want to share, then you have to pay. And I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of this, but both parties need to pay. So I would say if you don't have the scenario, then you're good. If you're using it for personal use, maybe learning or something like that, or I don't know, if you're a small business owner or a consultant even, but using it for your own use, then you're free in both of these scenarios. Uh, Otherwise, you have to go paid. Okay, hopefully that helps. And my friends, let's take. So hey, PC Rao, I hope you're hanging on because I think I'm finally ready for you. If you're still on, let me know. Yeah, so Trevor's saying, is it too complicated to discuss? Is it possible for me to voice chat? Gosh, so right now I don't have that. Oh, you know what? Sorry. So I lost. I was going to show you the scripting options. Oh shoot, I think I've forgotten now how I did it. Management. It wasn't here. It was somewhere else. I'll look it up. Maybe on the next day, day 2, which is Monday of the challenge, I'll look it up and I can show something from my past. That was many years ago. Woohoo! All right, let's pull up your email, my friend, and we'll see. Well, so let me take a shot at your problem, and if you need a file, then let's pick it up on day 2, and we'll go from there. Okay, I found it, and I'm gonna, oops, let's see. So guys, we'll make this the last question. I'm a little low uh, right now in energy, but this is good. Okay, so let's read through this. While displaying the KPI icons in a table visual, these icons are stored on one of the SharePoint site. So I've added the following measures. Yep, that's a cool trick to do. KPI index if variance is 0, 0 if variance is greater than 0, 1 minus 1. Yep, got it. Calculated measure. Perfect. Love that. Now I have another measure. If this, then show me this. If else, show me that. Makes sense. KPI icons and measure, so I can't, I'm not able to change its category to web URL or image URL. Oh, wow. I'm not sure. Maybe that's not possible. So I know I did a video on that on my channel. Yeah, but if you're doing the calculated column, that it's not going to update. I see a problem. Let me see how I. Yep, I think that's the trade-off. So if you go here, and I think I have a playlist on that KPI. Where's my playlist? Ah, there we go. Playlist, PowerBI.
How can you use the Excel?
And I think that stuff is in part 3. Let's see how I did it. What was it? Why am I showing Excel? Maybe it's in part 2. Sorry, just give me a second. Okay, got it. Yeah, I think. Yeah, got it. So you're not doing anything wrong. So guys, again, what the KPI icons let you do is essentially they let you show icons like this. But so I will say, if you haven't already, the best you can do is use the Unicode icons. So let me see what example I have here. Yeah, so I show images like this. Now, this is not an image. This is just a character like ABC and so forth. So I go to usually Emojipedia, and depending on what you're trying to do, ah, gosh, yeah. So yellow, red, and green, those colors would be hard. I'm not sure. I mean, you can find a red heart or something like that, but uh, yeah. So that's the best you can do. Come up with. So of course, in this video, I come up with these. In the next one, I mean, maybe you can come up, maybe not colored, but still maybe they're different shapes. So green is a circle, or maybe you can do something like this, where you can say a check mark and something else and something else. Oh yeah, actually do this. I'm 100% sure you're gonna find emoji for this. So check mark, check. So yeah, there we go. So and it may or may not show green. I don't know if it will, but use that. So that's the best tip. What do you think? Do you think that's gonna work? Oh, they want custom images. Oh gosh. No, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know a solution to that. So again, so for everybody that he can show an image, uh, he can at least point to the specific URL in a measure, and that was going to be dynamic. So based on if he changes territory, whatever selection happens, is going to be dynamic. But for a measure, you cannot say that that's a web URL or image URL. Let me show you what that looks like. So you can go to your model, not this one, that's connected to SSAS. This one, and you can say that a specific thing. Let's go to territories. There we go. So notice how this is region image, and you go to your modeling and you tell them that this one is actually an image URL. And then it's not going to show this text it's actually gonna load that image. So now if I go to region image, come on. Yeah, notice it actually is rendering that image, and I don't know why is one of them broken? I don't know, I think that's null. Uh, cool. So that's what we're talking about, but that option is only available for a column. So can't do that for a measure. Now, if he goes back, if PCRI goes back and adds it as a column, then it's no longer dynamic. So that's typically the trade-off between columns and measures, and that's why measures are super awesome because they're dynamic. So if you have, let's see what we have here, kind of sales versus budget or something like that, and if I filter that down to a different year, it's gonna change. And maybe in this year, our variance was in red, but in 2016, our variance was maybe positive, then it's gonna be dynamic. So yeah, that one I I don't know. That the best I had was a Unicode. Sorry. Yeah, measures. Maybe there's an idea out there for allowing measures to show URL. Actually, let me think. I'm wondering what about a custom visual. So I'm not a huge fan of custom visual because people go crazy over there. I mean, so for visualization, I'm a Stephen Few kind of guy. If you've heard of Stephen Few or if you've read his book, he's all talks about simplicity. He talks about economy of pixel. So what he talks about that every pixel should be intentional in the way that either it's communicating data, then it should be there. If it's not communicating data, then it should be minimized. And that's why, so in that sense, from Stephen Few's perspective, a map is extremely wasteful. It's because notice there are so many pixels which are not really communicating data. I'm not saying don't use maps, but just having those visualization principles helps. Um, so yeah, so measure. Uh, maybe there's an idea. Maybe there's a custom visual which would let you do that. Yeah, that would be the last hope. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it for me to kind of go search for it, but see if a custom visual solves it. So I know, I mean, I'll say go back to the client and show them the best Unicode option. And I know, I mean, they said custom images, but show them, at least show them the option working, and maybe they'll like that. I mean, whatever. Think of something that you think will work the best. Um, yeah, just I don't know, maybe this one, and I think you can find something which is like flat, so yellow, so an arrow like that. Oops, I should have typed it in. So I think there's a shape which is something like this. So it's like, it's kind of medium and then up and down. So show them that best option, see what they say. And if that doesn't work out, custom visual, that's the only thing I can think of. Whew. All right, guys. Hey, that was pretty epic. Let's just recap where we headed here, just so you know what's coming next. So we're gonna do this 5 times. And what's the time right now? So we are 2 hours and 36 minutes into it. Yeah, the last one is gonna be an all day event. Is that gonna be crazy? Well, yeah, it's gonna be crazy, believe me. So day 2, we're gonna meet Monday, and I'll talk more about Query Editor. And again, I will try to keep the teaching to a minimum, and then it's just open to you. The quality of these calls is determined by the quality of the questions you bring in. And Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm going to focus on DAX. Um, yeah, so Thursday, there's a gap day. There's actually a special event on Thursday. You know what? Again, we're friends now. We've hung out for a long time. So Thursday is actually doors open for enrollment to my Learn Power BI program. So if you are interested, I would encourage you to at least sign up for the. If you just go to learnpowerbi.com and click course, it's going to let you sign up for the early bird waitlist. So click on course. So Thursday is doors open. Yeah, Thursday is really special. That's gonna be awesome. So that's gonna be a special event, and then we're gonna. But you can take part in that, or you can just take that as a gap day for implementation, and then day 5 we're doing the crazy 5-day marathon. Oh, not full day marathon, not 5-day marathon. Full day marathon. Last time we went from like 9 to 4:30, I think. And yeah, it's gonna be epic. All right, guys. I will see you next time, and we're gonna hang out in the Talk Power BI group. I think I'm like I am exhausted now, so maybe not today, but on the weekend I'll check in. I'll see what's going on. And again, I loved seeing that in on the YouTube as well. You guys were helping each other as well. Because again, I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, rarely, never, maybe. So that was good, and I see the same thing in Talk Power BI, and of course, I was inspired by what I saw inside our student group, and I love that group. Cool. So we can hang out in the Facebook group. Check out the future days, and if you are signed up on that learnpowerbi.com/challenge, then I will be kind of sending you. I'll keep you up to date. If there's any change in the schedule, something like that, I'll make sure I keep you updated. And if you did sign up, you also have a link to that challenge information page. And I'm also going to keep that updated, and that's going to be your go-to place. Going to have all the videos, any changes that come in. Cool. See you next time. Power on, my friends.